Good evening and welcome to the Monday, September 13th, 2021 Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board just come out of a paperwork review. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. This evening, we have Selectman LaSalle being remotely. Do we have a motion to allow him to participate remotely? We have a motion by Mr. Leary.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Lynch. All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion's carried 5-0-0. Selectman LaSalle can participate this evening. First, we have the review and approval of consent items. First, we have the account payroll manifest of September 7th, 2021 in the sum of $120,620.67 and September 14th of 2021 in the sum of $67,519.49. We have a payroll manifest of September 9th, 2021 in the sum of $54,181.55 and September 16th, 2021 in the sum of $57,787.44. We have the tax collector town clerk reconciliation. We have the NHDRA MS 535 form physical report. Are there any items members would like to remove from consent? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Queenan,
Second.
second by Mr. Leary. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Is there any other business members would like to add this evening?
Yes, I have a few items.
Okay,
I'd like for us to talk about the situation that occurred down at the Mel's Tee-Off over the weekend.
okay,
I'd also like to talk about the status of Troy and I figured out that there are still hundreds of people who are being furnished bottled water that their wells have tested for PFOAs, and they're being furnished bottled water. And I'm just wondering if there's a long-term plan for that. The third thing is the Purple Heart community. I'd like to talk just briefly about our quest to become a Purple Heart community. And that's what I have.
okay,
Just,
thank you.
Just as a matter of explanation, I'm not sitting at home because I want to. For members of the public, I know with all the hysteria with respect to health and so forth, I did go to the VA last week and I did test positive for COVID. That was last Tuesday. I was having some congestion and so forth. And so I am quarantined until I have a negative test. It looks like I'm quarantined all this week, but that doesn't preclude me from talking with people on the front porch if they like to do that. But I just figured I owed the public an explanation why I'm not there at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to hear you're feeling better. Any other items members would like to add?
Since we've got quite a thing going tonight, a lot of work, do you want to move public input up? And
Yep,
get
we'll do that right away.
people here?
Yep. So public input will occur no earlier than 6:35 this evening. So the first item we'll have will be public input. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak? Good evening and welcome.
Hey, my name's Rick Charbonneau. I live at 401 Charles Bancroft Highway. So yesterday morning, I went out my driveway to go grocery shopping at 6:30 in the morning, and there's these big signs going up, say event parking on adjacent to my property, was in the state right away. That had never happened before. I thought they were setting up for Spooky World, and I didn't know that they were setting up for a concert or whatever was going on up there. It sounded like a concert because I could hear them till 10 o'clock last night. So I knocked the signs down. I put the sign down. I asked the guy not to put them up there because they never put them up there before. They're not on any site plan. The planning board never gave any approval for any off-site signage like that. So I didn't know that the board gave them a special exception to have this concert or whatever they want to call it, this event.
It was in
So I wasn't aware of it
Mhm.
because they hadn't been to the planning board. There was no notification or anything like that. So I thought it was Spooky World. So when the signs went back up, and I called Robert, and I text Troy, I sent them pictures of it. I talked to Rich, and I talked to the state. They were going to look into it today. I believe they went down there today, but I don't know what that was. I don't believe anybody has a right to put any sign in the state right away. I believe that to be the case. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. I would ask that in the future, if the board's going to allow a special event like this, because the planning board was very clear, and Kim can attest to this, that is they have so much of change a sign that they have to go back to the board. That anything that they do, extra events or whatever, they have to go back to the planning board for a change of use. So again, they've sidestepped the planning board, and they came here and you guys allowed it, which you have that right to do. I don't dispute that. But none of us, no neighbors got notified of it. So I would ask that the board, if the board is going to make an exception like that, that the butters at least get notified on what's going to happen. So we have some kind of input. So when I'm driving out in the morning and there's signs there, at least I know why they're there if they're there. You know, I don't think it's fair. I don't think anybody should have those signs in front of their property, whether they have a state permit or not. So the other thing I think that should happen is if somebody's going to put a sign up and they do have state approval to do it, that the abutter should also. Why should it be in front of somebody's house? I mean, I don't think any of you guys would want just some signs to show up in front of their house someday. I don't think that's right. I mean, I don't think whether we like what they do there or not, if they have all the proper permits, they should be allowed to do it. But if there's things that are just going to be done without anybody, the abutters who have the biggest impact on it, you know, I mean, I don't care for hearing the bass pound in my house till 10 o'clock last night. I don't care for it. I don't know if you guys heard it or could hear it, but maybe if we knew that it was going to happen, maybe that's different. Or at least let the people that abut the place have some kind of say in what's going to happen. Maybe they're all happy and maybe no one cares but me. I don't know, but they should at least have the opportunity. You should have the opportunity to say something. And I would request that, you know, I don't know of another business in this town that's ever come to the selectmen and asked for all these special events and special things that they have. I mean, I've had the golf courses, I have the driving range, I have all that stuff. I have Continental Paving. I've never come to the board for something special. I've always gone through the process, which is the planning board, and done it that way. And I think wherever it is in the town, it should be that way. It should go to the planning board for the proper approvals to do anything. Any business should have to do that. It's the proper thing. And I work in a lot of cities and towns. I can tell you that if this operation was in any city or town, it would be much tougher on them than we are in Litchfield with them. They think that everybody picks on them. I know that they're going to say that, but if they were in Nashua, if they were in Manchester, if they were in Hudson, they were in Londonderry, I deal with all those people. I mean, we just paved Albuquerque last year. What did we go through? The grief that the state gave us because we didn't get a driveway permit, right?
Yeah.
On a road that's paved. I mean, all we did is repave the road. So all these things happen that we all have to deal with every day. And I think that that it should be handled so that at least the neighbors in the whole town, not just at Mills, but anywhere. If anybody wants a special event, then you guys make a exception. I mean, the concert that they have is not even a permitted use. If you read your regulations, it's not even a permitted use. I don't even know if they needed a variance to have it, but it's not in your regulations or the planning board's regulations for what a permitted use is. Concert's not there. Doesn't say that anywhere. So that's what I ask. I think it's a reasonable request, and I would ask the board if you would take a vote to do that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate your input. We'll take it all under advisement.
I'd say we had no idea they were going to put signs all up and down 3.
No, we did
That
not.
would have been a totally different matter.
We did not whatsoever. We know there's usually a sign right at the entrance of
Spooky.
the cornfield where they
Oh,
park.
yeah, but not all the way up and down. Yeah. I know.
Where were the signs?
Going all up in front of his house and coming up the other side and coming down the other way.
They're not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
I got them in.
And they were
Nashua,
big
I got 'em in
signs. They were like
Manchester.
4 by 8.
Yeah, they were all over. There was some in Milford. There's some in Hudson.
Yeah, they should have never done that.
No, that's the event people.
So did you have an opportunity, you and Jeff, to go out and look
Yeah.
today?
I didn't see any.
Jeff went out this
Thank you.
morning, and there were no signs moved.
They took them down.
They're all gone. This morning, they're all gone.
I don't know whose signs they were. The restaurant was having the event, so I don't know if the restaurant put those up. I don't know if the owners of Mel's Funway Park put that up. So
I think it's the owners that were putting them up because it said event parking and they usually are the ones that have those up. Okay. And the restaurant's part of that facility now, so. But they seems like they're doing this all the time now. And I agree with Mr. Shabbat on this. It's just, we've got to get a grip on that.
Yeah, based on the non-meeting we had the other night, we allowed these two, and then
Yeah, what's
there
that?
is a on the planning board, they're coming up right for site amendment,
I believe on it's October 5th.
October 5th.
Yeah, we only gave permission for just 2.
Yep.
And that was the one up at Art Park.
This weekend, and then I think it's next weekend is the Paws and Whiskers.
That's it. And we've never been asked this before.
Nope. So it's new territory for us also. Are there any other members that would like to give input? Please come forward.
Michael Accomando, Mel's Funway Park. Excuse the mess, just came from the park. And for the record, no, I don't believe everybody picks on us at all. The signs that were put up there, they were the same signs that we had used for the first 10 years of Spooky World. We've had them in the garage for 10 years. We've never been told once to take them down. The DOT has never come out to tell us to take them down. We've never been told by police, by fire, by any official of the town. If we had, we would have immediately. We got a letter from the town attorney who told us that we needed to have signs that directed all of the traffic to the cornfield. And I have a letter from the town attorney who said that. If I had known that the signs were not supposed to be there, we never would have put the signs there. We were told by the attorney to do that. So we followed procedure. That morning, when Mr. Charbonneau was upset that the signs were there, we were caught between a rock and a hard place. We had no idea they weren't supposed to be there, but we knew if they weren't there, I'm sure that somebody else would have sent something to the town saying, hey, where are the signs that we required you to put up? The DOT did come out this morning and we met with them and he explained where the signs are permitted to be and where they're not permitted to be. Again, for 10 years, we had these up and down 3A, and they were in the exact same spot that they were, unfortunately, in front of Mr. Charbonneau's property. Even back then, we had them directing people to the cornfield. Again, nobody ever brought it to the attention of us. We never would have put it there. So we apologize for a mistake that I don't think was a mistake. We were doing what we were told to do, and we're not going to do that again because he explained to us exactly where the signs can go. He told us 15 feet, and on our own property, we can put the signs, and we can put the signs at the entrance of our property as well. He did say if there was a neighbor gracious enough to say, you can put a sign here because they feel it's a safety reason, we'd be allowed to put it 15 feet off of the not the center line, the end line, 15 feet. So that will be directed, and it won't happen again. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that, because I know it turned into an ordeal yesterday and we were in the middle of it. It was not our event. The restaurant is the one that went for the permits and was supposed to get the permits for that. The dog show as well, the Greater Nashua, we sent them to the town hall months ago. Unfortunately, we told them, you have to pull out your permits, and they did speak to police, they did speak to fire, but they never carried it the next yard because they've always done this in Merrimack, and they never had to go for a permit to do that. So they did not understand that. That's why I believe it ended up going the way it did. I think Andy got involved because we told them, you need to talk to Andy. Andy made a phone call, and that's how I believe it ended up with you. We did not throw that. If we had, we would have done everything the correct procedure. We sent them to get their permits. We were told we were all set, and I think it was just confusion on their part from what they've done in the past. What we were told is to put up signs. That's what we did. And now we were told how they're supposed to go up correctly. And again, we had done it for 10 years at Spooky World. So we apologize for doing it right, but doing it wrong all at the same time, and it won't happen again.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. So this weekend, you're going to put them in the spots for the.
Yes, they'll
next
be
event?
off of the road, and they'll be inside the entrance of the park. We're going to ask one of the neighbors who, we're friendly with, if we can put one in their yard, just because we feel it's important, that people see it, because it allows people to break a little bit ahead of time before they get to the entrance, and then so people don't turn around and then go back to it. So it will be done correctly, and we'll take pictures of it and send it to you if you'd like, just so you can see where they are.
Chief, how does that sound for public safety in your point of
If they're in
view?
compliance with what the DOT advised them, I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you.
And certainly I can go down, the captain and I can go down and take a look at those spots, make sure it's not obstructing any sight line or anything that we would have concerns, but I'm sure if the state's having it 15 feet off, that'd be appropriate.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
I don't ever remember seeing that many signs on 3A, and certainly not all the way down in front of Mr. Charbonneau's house. That
We
was
used to
kind of
have
what
them,
took me.
we had them all
The
the way,
size of
the
them.
same thing, same
I
ones.
remember smaller signs. I don't remember big signs.
They were the exact same. I used to be able to carry them back then. Now I can't, but they were the same 4x8s. We have the
I
banners.
remember that.
Yeah, we've done it. We actually used to all the way go up to where Tim's Street used to go up, and we would start there and put them all the way down, just because of the fact we wanted people to start to slow as they came down the street. And we always went down, because I remember down by Mr. Charbonneau's property, there's 3 telephone poles starting from Dick Jerry's house down. And we always went 1 telephone pole, 2 telephone poles, 3 telephone poles then also. But again, it's not going to happen ever again. Now that we understand, the rules and regulations on it. We wouldn't have done it if somebody told us 10 years ago.
Mhm.
It would have been taken care of then.
My name is Wayne Caulfield. I'm one of the co-owners. And, I just have to say, I really didn't appreciate Mr. Charbonneau going and throwing our signs over and tipping them over. And one of them was damaged, and that's wrong. There's a process to take care of that, and that's not the process if you're in a disagreement with something. So I hope that doesn't happen again. That's harassment as far as I'm concerned. And I really hope that, someone speaks up on our behalf and tells him he can't do this anymore. We're tired of it. And with all due respect, we hear that mantra through the town that we don't do anything with permits all the time, because that's what he's perpetuating at all times. That's not true. We've done everything the town has asked us. We have received every permit that we've ever needed. And that is that. And these are not our events. Either of them are ours personally. We are assisting in them for sure. But these are one was this, as you said, this is the restaurants event, which we assisted in. And then also the Humane Society usually had their event over in Nashua. And unfortunately, Budweiser just wasn't into doing events this year with COVID. So they were looking for a new home, and they approached us, and we said, You go down, talk to the town. If you can make a special day permit, whatever the place is, and we're very thankful that the board had voted to, let it go until the hearing. But there isn't any backroom deals. Michael and I never met any, never came before the board and asked to have those events here. This all happened on the side. So I just want to make that clear for the record, please. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank
Greatly
you.
Appreciate the input.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to give input this evening? Sure.
Again, Rick Charbonneau, on the golf courses. And if I have an event there, they can say that they don't know what's going on. But whoever owns the place, I can't imagine anybody not knowing when they rent the facility out that they don't know what's going on at that facility. Sorry, I mean, we're just not that ignorant here. To get up and say that we don't know what these guys are doing. Why did you rent it to them? I mean, I'm not going to rent the golf. I have tournaments all the time. People run the tournaments here. I know what's going on. I'm responsible. Don't say that someone else is responsible. You own it. You're responsible for it. Any one of you guys when Kim has if she rents out her winery when she has it built, she can't say it's someone else's fault when they rent it out and they don't do what she's supposed to do. It's all the same. That's craziness to say that you don't know what's going on. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to provide comment this evening? Hearing none, I'll close public input at 6:55. First item is the August 30th, 2021 meeting minutes. Does everybody have a chance to review? Do we have any comments, clarifications, corrections?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Leary.
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Queenan. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. Next we have is continuation of the budget review. First up is code enforcement, 424120. Mr. Brown?
Thank you. We have Jeff Blackwell here this evening. He and I have worked on the code enforcement budget and the health officer budget as we plan on transitioning the health officer position under the code enforcement officer the first of the year. So I'll just go ahead and give a quick review, and then Jeff will be here for any follow-up questions you have on some of the training sessions and seminars that we plan to attend. So the bottom line of this budget is you have an increase of $11,170. Of that, primarily what's driving that is the salary for the 12 months for the code enforcement officer. As you know, after a lengthy recruitment process, we were very fortunate to find Mr. Blackwell, and he's joined us. And the board had established a salary with some incentives once certain certifications are achieved. So we're budgeting the full anticipation that those will occur in 2022. The overtime, the position changed from an hourly position to a salaried. So obviously we've reduced any overtime cost. And nothing really major changes here. The bottom line is still trying to maintain a little over $3,000 for the seminars and conventions and training. Like we said, the building officers, the building code enforcement training courses. We have, hopefully we have 12 meetings of the New Hampshire building officials that we'll be able to attend either virtually or in person. And then the allotment of $2,000 for the ICC certifications. And Jeff's been doing a lot of research on that. And I don't know if you want to just kind of explain to the board what you're currently working on and what you're looking to achieve in 2022.
So right now I'm working on the initial residential building inspector certification. I should have that hopefully shortly. And then as we get to the end of the year and into next fiscal year, I'll be pursuing the next 4, hopefully 5 certifications for the electrical, plumbing, mechanical, and then moving on to some of the commercial parts of it.
So we have any comments or questions concerning 424120 code?
No, right now. Looks pretty simple.
Is there a certification for septic inspections involved with that too? Because Litchfield's a septic town.
Not through the ICC, no.
No?
Not to the ICC, but you got licensed installers and designers. Okay, yeah, that's a whole different, right. The state comes down and inspect, we try to go out. The way I used to do it, the state still comes down here to inspect, same in all over. What I'm more concerned about is we're doing a repair in kind. Go out there and get some soil background. He's an engineer, so I don't have to worry about the soils. Okay, and that's half the battle right there. Okay, and get that. So being a PE, you got that covered.
Yeah, and there is, in fact, I just missed it, but they do have the New Hampshire building officials just had a seminar on
Set
soils.
surface.
So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Get back up here. Okay, next we have Health Department 4411.10.
Way down here. Oh, that's a big one.
So the total budget for 2022 for the health department is $2,085, represents a $55 increase over last year. Again, it maintains an annual stipend of $1,500 for the health officer. We have not budgeted any funds for the water analysis down at Dara Pond. That testing has stopped for at least the past 2 years. The state used to come down and test. For whatever reason, they have stopped doing that testing. So they used to conduct the test, and we would have to reimburse or pay for the lab fees. Dues and subscriptions would be, we're going to carry the assumption that we'll have the health officer and 2 deputies, and each one would be a member of the Health Officers Association at $45 each. And as I understand this year, starting in 2022, there's new mandatory training. So we're carrying an allowance of $150 for each health officer, or the health officer and the 2 deputies. Not really knowing what the actual cost will be, but we know that there will be mandatory training. So we're carrying some allowance for that. Really no significant change, $55 increase.
Okay, thank you. We have any comments
And
on?
one, why do you need 2 deputy health officers? I know the job doesn't
Well-
require that.
You know what? It's talking to the health officer today. We think it's important, especially with some of the new mandates that are coming down, that we have backup and we have experienced people that.
Building inspector is the health officer and 1 deputy. Not 2 deputies and a health officer.
We're recommending that we have a health officer and 2 deputies, so we have good training and backup in place. The board can, do as it wish, but that's our recommendation.
I recommend we don't have 2. We want it because I can't see the work for it professionally here.
I think it's for.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is here, it's $45 for dues and subscriptions, and then $150 for seminar convention. So looking at $195. Is
I
that
understand.
a,
It's a lot.
is that a cheap enough insurance policy just to have a second W?
Makes no sense to me still.
You can,
No, there's no workload for it.
you could have, if the thought, I
That's
guess,
just my
is that
thought,
if you have your, one deputy and you've trained that deputy and for whatever reason, the deputy is no longer with us, it takes time to get people trained, and to have that backup. It's people, when the phone call is made to that, and this, Kevin, when the phone call is made, you have someone out on vacation, someone's all sick, people expect to have the health officer be able to come and sign the paperwork, certification for their daycare, for their whatever it is, foster care. We have septic system issues. So I think for $200 to make sure we have the training and backup in place is small money for a town.
I just don't see, I don't see a workload. That's all I'm saying, okay? I've been in the business a long time. I know there isn't much of a workload on that one.
Okay, do we have any other input on 4411.10, Health Department?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. LaSalle's.
the cost of the deputies, I mean, Troy has said a couple of times that it's a very minor cost for dues and subscriptions and training. But the problem is, to me, there's some hidden costs. And that's if, I assume these deputies are town employees, is that correct?
What will be their rate to go out?
In the past, yes, they've been town employees. So again, we're gonna have a new health officer starting the first of the year, and who he chooses for his deputies, I'm not sure. But in the past, I think we have qualified individuals that do work for the town.
Question on that. I know where you're coming from, Rich. I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. Doug is a deputy your deputy health officer. Doug?
He's a health
You're the
officer.
health officer now, and you get a stipend for that, right? And when you go out on a call after hours, you get paid time and a half because you're under the fire department.
I haven't gone out.
No, you haven't. Okay,
I do it all during the regular work week.
yeah, which is basically the whole job. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my point was that if these are town employees, the hidden cost is when you take that person out of his normal job or take him away from his normal job, to me, that he has to make up for that somehow. And that's the hidden cost that isn't shown in this budget.
Okay, thank you.
It's a small number, but to me, it's the principle. As a health officer and building inspector, I've done it for years. When it comes to do daycares and stuff like that, it's part of the routine. Okay, I used to do both. So having the two people going out, you normally had one person going out, and it was all done. As for the restaurant complaints or inspections, you got state inspectors for that take that no matter what. You may initiate the concern, but you call in the state to take care of it because they have to. So as for septic, that's the easiest thing. So right now, when I was here, I just did the failures. The new ones were all done by the state. Okay, and that's how it was done. It's very simply done. So just bringing it up. It's part of, you go out to see the house, you want to look at the septic, and while you're looking at this, and this,
So the only unforeseen thing you're not looking at is we're in the middle of a pandemic. And the last year we've been extremely busy dealing with pandemic stuff. So even moving forward, pandemic isn't going anywhere. We're going to be dealing with it for foreseeable future. So it's not just doing septic, it's not just doing bed bug complaints or signing paperwork for foster care. There's a little bit more going on other than the last time you did it.
At this point, how often does a deputy go out?
It depends. I mean,
If you just had to throw a number, is it once a month, once every couple months? I mean, how often are we utilizing the deputy?
last year there was a few different complaints between certain businesses in town that we've had issues with, health complaints with food with businesses, bed bug complaints, and then also, like I said, dealing with the pandemic. So we're splitting it up.
Okay.
So that, otherwise one person could get overwhelmed at certain points with everything that was going on.
And again, part of what we're considering is if I'm not available, right, if the health officer's not available, for whatever reason, you need to have at least that next guy.
That's true.
If you're gone for a week on vacation with that,
That's the deputy.
you get the overlap, then at least you have somebody, but should it be needed? Be very, rarely,
That's why I said one.
but
That's how I felt about it. You really don't get a lot.
I just look at, I think it's a short insurance policy. So if you're out, the other one could be a fire member if they're on a call and we do have to get somewhere, just to have somebody else educated. Maybe they're the backup for $195 to have somebody else educated enough. If we have turnover, we got another person who can backfill easily.
My point is not going to go anywhere. I just say it. I know what the workload is going to be. Okay. It's a short sum. I agree with that.
Okay, do we have any other input in the health?
So the question was asked, if the deputy goes out, is he getting paid for that? And what is it coming out of? But we never,
Do we know where that's funded from?
if it's a deputy that goes out,
If a deputy health officer goes out?
Yeah. where's that money come from?
Well, currently that
Because they're gonna get paid.
is the fire chief's department, so.
I'm happy to field that question.
Oh,
So
okay.
currently, the deputy health officers are both members of the fire.
Yep.
And where they're not compensated to be deputies, they're compensated as, it's essentially part of their job as
So
a
it's like,
specialty of their position. So if they were to go out after, or, we try to do it during their normal hours, they would have to go out after, then we would compensate them. We have a legal obligation to.
So it could be overtime or whatnot.
But if it's during the day, it could
So
just.
the-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So to answer your question, the second deputy is
Yeah.
Steve Juby, who's our part-time fire inspector. His normal working hours is at night, so he's working anyways and being paid anyway. So if something comes up that we can't do during the day and it's more convenient to do something at night, then he handles it.
Chief?
I think it really boils down to the level of service we're providing the community. And by having some redundancy, and that's how we built the system 3 years ago, there's never the chance of not having somebody available. And again, at a small cost. I mean, to some degree, we take advantage of the fact that Inspector Doobie is also a health officer in the neighboring community and gets the bulk of his training during his normal business hours there. And we put him on our rolls and we kind of share some of the memberships and training costs. We're getting a much bigger bang for our buck. It gives us, as Doug mentioned, some evening opportunities to meet the residents' needs. Again, it goes back to the level of service we want to provide to the community for, again, the little bit of money we're spending a year. So,
Thank you, Chief.
The reason I ask that is because in a couple of weeks, we'll be sitting in front of the budget committee and we know how they talk about overtime. It's always a pleasant discussion.
but again, we've been doing it this way for 2 years, Bob, and it hasn't, resulted in a spike in any line.
Thanks, Chief. Any other comments or questions on the health department? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the fire administration, 4220.10. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening.
220.
We're going old school today. We've had some technology challenges, so can never go wrong with hard copies.
Nothing to do with the IT director?
No, he did his best. In all fairness to John, he did his best. But when parts aren't available for certain pieces of equipment, parts aren't available.
So I'll kind of just go down through some, obviously some lines have a little bit more explanation than others. Some probably have none at all because they haven't changed. But in regards to the first three salary lines, fire chief, full-time firefighter, EMT, and daytime staff, and then they're really the increases there are based upon the merit increase system. So wages call firefighter, that's a moving target every year. Sometimes we get it close, sometimes not so close. We've yet to hit it dead on. The changes there are we've had a decrease in staffing like everybody else in the country and on the call volunteer side of the fire service. We've had some retirements. We've had some people move out of town just for whatever reason. Personal family lives have consumed the time they had for the fire department. So our numbers are down a little bit. So that is reflected here. We're certainly working to build those numbers up. We're intending here to release a video. You'll get to see the deputy starring in his first, motion picture. But basically, we've adjusted to account for that. So we look at the number of calls we have every year on an annual basis. It has, I think, in only 1 year in my tenure here, gone down. It typically goes up, some years more than others. We look at the average of number of personnel that respond to each call based upon our data. Last year, it was like 4.8, so we round to 5. This year, it was 4, and part of that, again, is attributed to the decrease in the roster, number on the roster. So we've reduced that. The other thing is we've had some folks with longevity and higher positions. Deputy Travis will be retiring at the end of the month. He's been with us for 21 years. So that was the shift from the previous hourly wage downwards a little bit because we've got more folks at the lower end and the higher end at this point. So that 600 calls at an average of 4 firefighters per call, dropped from this year's approved budget of 57,038 to 45,000. And that pretty much is the only change in that. So that resulted in a decrease in that line of $12,254. Along the same lines with training, with less members, we have less members participating to participate in training. So that line was reduced by $2,040, again, to reflect a more realistic number of, with keeping some cushion for the fact we're trying to build those numbers back up. So I don't want to under budget and all of a sudden have, I don't know that'll happen, but it would be wonderful if we had a full roster mid-year next year. But we're certainly going to be closer to that than we are currently, as we have a number of candidates in the process for being brought on board. Fire inspector, again, that's part of the merit. We based the cost of the merit increase last year. That remains at 4 hours a week and 48 weeks out of the year. The overtime rates, again, are adjusted. The overtime rate is adjusted for the increase in wages. The overtime training, we've kind of cut that back to a more accurate number based on some history. So that did decrease by $891. Next 3 lines, there is no increase. But I'm assuming that Karen's going to correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't got health and dental, so it's no increase today. But that probably stands to change.
Karen, do we have any speculation on that yet?
We usually don't get those until, I think they have their hearing in October. So I don't anticipate it until probably
Late October, early November.
Thank you.
Short-term disability, that is the insurance policy on all the department members actually. And that was redone last year, and that's a 3-year fixed rate. So that actually decreases because it wasn't adjusting, or 2-year. I'm sorry, there's this year and next year left. So we'll redo that next year. So then we'll know the next 2 or 3 years, depending upon how we negotiate that. Long-term disability is a decrease. I'll defer to Karen on that one. That's managed by HR. Computer software contracts, no changes. That's our firehouse software, the messaging, and our I Am Responding program that we utilize to manage resources. We don't know of any change yet that I'm aware of to the dispatching contract with Hudson, or agreement, I guess. It's not really a contract. I haven't been informed and that there's going to be a change to that, so we're going to go with status quo. Pre-appointment screenings, background checks. I'm not sure what happened in the formula there, but it was carried a little more than what they actually cost us. So that was adjusted to reflect the actual costs based on 5 a year. Physicals, again, we being lower in numbers, we dropped that from 10 to 8 a year. So that was that decrease there. And then we were doing, on average, we were estimating 5 a year. Realistically, it's 4 a year new hires. So I'm hoping that number creeps up a little bit, but if we need to defer an annual to do a new hire, we do that. So that line was decreased by 3,200. Instructor Services, that is purely the increase that we've been made aware of for our EMS continuing education contract. Electricity, Troy has kept a spreadsheet. I believe there's a link to that, and that's based on the 3-year historical averages.
Yeah.
Assuming no rate changes.
There's an assumption, so we've calculated out throughout the whole budget, use the same spreadsheet, a 3-year average, and I've increased a 3% increase this year for 2022.
And we're still waiting for our rate, though.
Still rating, but the 3% is built in.
Along the same lines, same formula that's used for electricity is used for heating. So that is the change there.
And that's an assumption right now of $1.50 per gallon for propane.
Is that going to be a safe guess, or?
Well, propane and fuel.
I'm hoping that we're somewhere in that ballpark. School has gone out, is started discussing rates, so we should get a firm rate here soon.
Water, we pretty much hit that one spot on the last couple of years. So barring a Penachuk rate increase on domestic water and sprinkler, I think we actually had one last year. So that's pretty much stays the same. Repairs and maintenance, we're holding that at the same line. Some of those have been deferred and are coming up very quickly here because obviously earlier in the year we were kind of limiting access to the building and so forth. Dues and subscriptions, no change. Pretty much no change until we get the postage. We've had it at 100. We spent 87 last year. Pretty much in this day and age, I think it's if we have to ship something back. So just keeping a minimal placeholder more than $1 is what I looked at there. So that was cut in half. Equipment repair and maintenance. We, once they come in, our radio replacement program, they were ordered back in January. Then do we have a ship date, John, or are we still? They arrived today. There we go. Christmas came. So we decreased that line by 20,000 because we've pretty much completed that program after 5 years. So that being said, it'll only be a couple of 3 years. We'll need to start looking at that. That's a cyclical. It's like gear. It's like a lot of equipment, technology, and more so driven. That we'll need to start looking at that. And I think between Chief Sergeant and John and myself that, we're going to try and look at keep the townwide process going that we just did. So, but there is at least a couple of year reprieve on that on our end. Again, back to the statistical average and looking at the data point for fuel, 2,188 gallons at 308 a gallon, which is, Troy can tell you where that,
That's just coming from, there's a link there that goes to the Department of Energy's, forecasting,
I think,
EPA. So
We
think,
bumped it last time we talked fuel, didn't we?
Yeah. I
We
think
had a
did-
low one,
I
you
think
and
we
I.
did the gas.
What's the
yeah.
board? It was gas, yeah. That we said.
Yeah.
we
Well,
did the
this
gas
is
last
diesel.
meeting.
Diesel, yeah.
So I do know that,
Still should be higher.
we've been paying more than 308 lately
Mhm.
for our diesel, and that's non-taxed.
Yeah.
Because we're a municipality, we're exempt from all but federal
It's
tax.
probably more like 330, right?
Don't quote me, but I think it's a closer number currently. It's all over the board for the year. If I look back at each
It's
delivery, and
gone
what we've
up and
paid,
down.
yeah,
Yep.
it's like a yo-yo. So.
The hurricanes are really messing it up right now this year.
So again, we've got a pretty comfortable number with the gallonage. It's the, hitting the target on the cost, from January to December. And we're trying to predict, 14, 15 months out at this point. Pretty much status quo for the next couple of lines. Again, with a slight downward trend in call members, we've adjusted that down to 28 from, I believe it was 32. So a decrease in $400 there. Protective equipment. I had to get up out of my chair, get off the floor back into my chair when I talked to our protective equipment vendor, and they told me plan on 8%, but we've been told anywhere between 4 and 12% increase in protective clothing next year. So we went with the middle of the 8%. So that is the increase there of $1,750. I hope it's closer to the 4. I don't think I've ever seen it less. And again, same thing. We ordered our first set of gear back in February before the rate increase, and we still don't have a delivery date. So yeah, it's just getting the materials and so forth. So
Supply chain's messed up.
medical supplies, obviously that stuff has skyrocketed over the last year and a half. So we have increased that. Also out of that line, and it's not noted in here in the notes, but that's also covers the cost of our annual service contracts on our 2 cardiac monitor defibrillators. So which is not quite half that amount. So when you look at the 6,000 and think Band-Aids, it's about half that. The other half is annual servicing and repairs. If we have an issue with one, we get a loaner within a day or so. So provisions stayed the same. I think the next big bite at the apple here is the replacement of the command vehicle, which is 14 years old, about 106,000 miles. I will share with the board that we have last month started, a month and a half ago now, started a plan or program to get a comprehensive fleet analysis from, the smallest vehicle to the biggest vehicle. We have sent the larger apparatus up to Lakes Region Fire Apparatus, who has done repairs and service on our apparatus for long before I got here, and actually sent them up with our mechanic, with their mechanic. Every truck got put up, gone through front bumper to back bumper, bottom of the tire to the top of the truck. They're in the process of writing all that up. I can tell you only one truck went up. As much as we've tried to maintain everything and done everything we can without being able to put the truck up in the air on a lift and look at it, Corey has done a phenomenal job doing everything he can possibly do in-house. Only one truck went up and came back the same day. Everything else spent a day or 2 or 3 or 4 up there, most of it waiting for parts. Nothing earth shattering, some seals, some gaskets, and so forth. But we do expect to have that comprehensive analysis for later, I guess later into October, November, when we start talking about warrant articles and the replacement of engine 2. Along the same lines, the The only truck we didn't do is the new Forester because it's literally barely a year old and we built it, so we know what's we're working with. We didn't do the new utility because again, it's only a year old. So it really, it's only a year old. It's just barely out of warranty at this point. We sent car one, the 2007 Tahoe over to Edwards. And they did a thorough go through of it. And do you want to summarize I think I have well, actually, I think I have it right here, Doug. Vehicle shows signs of heavy New England corrosion, fuel lines, suspension components, shocks, control arms, sway bars, etc. Sway bar mounts, common to rot off the frame, getting rough. Headlights are glazed over, but still pass. They do not recommend this be used as an emergency vehicle due to the current signs of corrosion. So we're at the point we need to think about replacing that. So I have working with based on the state bid process, the 2022 bids are not out. So I don't want to spill Ben's beans, but they haven't, we've been working this together. They haven't come out with the 22. We're using the 21 based upon a similar replacement vehicle and some upfitting costs. We're looking for $43,500 to replace that vehicle. And that would be with a 2021, 22, whatever. I guess it's going to be 22s from what you said the other day, right? There's not much left on the lots. And
There's no inventory.
yeah. So that's again, may or may not be a real solid number to work with depending upon the increases in a newer model. Replacement of that vehicle, the command vehicle. Mileage and tolls, no change, just $1 more or less to have a line to charge to if need be, but 90% of any of that's being used by department vehicle and so forth. So seminars and conventions, far be it from me to reduce training costs, but when the state reduces the training costs, then we can reduce the training costs. So through some new funding and at the state level, our firefighter 1 certifications. So when we send a firefighter up, the actual cost, if they're not affiliated with the department, is borne by them fully, and it's somewhere in the range of $2,800 for the class. Previously, if they were affiliated with a department, it was, I want to say $650. They just dropped that cost down to $135. Same with Fire 2. They dropped it from, I think it was $525 down to $150. So that reflects the difference in the Fire 1 certifications. We didn't change the number we're doing. We just changed the price. We dropped from $2,535 down to $405. And on Fire 2s from $1,120 down to $300. So that reflects the $2,950 decrease in that line. Which brings us to the bottom line of try that number one up since we talked last.
That's when I went.
Go the other way.
Tweaking the electric and propane and diesel.
So $19,956 increase over the 2020. And keeping in mind that that's really the vehicle.
And that vehicle price includes your estimated fit up.
We did an estimate of fit up. Yeah. Obviously our fit ups aren't to the extent that the PD cruisers, Tahoes are. So we kind of went more in lines with what, PD spent to upfit their staff vehicles. So we're going to transfer, again, staying with that vehicle, we can transfer the command center. All the new radios will get transferred. There's really not much that some of the lighting maybe need updated, but other than that, the big ticket items are going to be transferred. So.
Okay, great.
Questions?
Any questions on 4220.10 fire?
All right, now.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, if it wasn't for the vehicle, it'd be down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. Emergency management. I didn't put emergency management.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess technology does help in some cases. So I don't think there was really any.
Yeah, next is fire hydrants 4220.90. And I think we had emergency. You want to do emergency management first?
I just brought up the hydrants, but I can do the emergency management. I'll do emergency management. So
So we'll flip the
I'll go through it and, oh, wow. Good job, Chief. $0 increase. Emergency Management Director receives a stipend of $1,500 per year. We have our Code Red emergency alert system, the software, $4,672. We have Hazmat District, the annual dues, $8,555. You want to explain what
Sure.
that is?
So that basically is our insurance policy for a hazmat incident. We are in the southeastern New Hampshire Regional Hazardous Materials District. And that, a lot easier to use the acronym, but I can never remember the acronym because it's so long. But basically, it's a consortium of pretty much all of the towns to the east of the river, the Merrimack River, over to Atkinson, Hampstead, that area from Hooksett down to the state line. And we have access to chemists, hazardous materials, equipment, technicians, team leads, so forth. Do we use it often? We've used it once since I've been here when we had the Wilson Farm fire. We actually had a hazmat. We didn't need a full activation, but we had a hazmat team leader here, and we had a chemist here to work with us to ensure that what was burning was not going to become a runoff issue, an air resource issue, and so forth. That's what that covers. So it's truly, we have something running down Charles Bancroft and turns over. We have access to spill resources, to all that expertise and technical that we just don't have the manpower or the resources to handle. So that's what that is. It's level funded this year in part because that the team, and we have the team district is comprised of an operations committee, which I sit on as the fire chief, and a board of directors, which Troy is the board appointed representative to sit on. They meet each year. They set the operational goals, objectives. The board of directors approves all that, and the board of directors, approves the budget for the team. So the budget is based upon a fixed rate for each community and then a per capita. So it's based on our population, our risk hazard. We don't have a whole lot, so we don't pay as much as other communities. And then there's some smaller communities that pay a little less. And it's based upon the number of communities. The team trains on a regular basis, a monthly basis. Last year, because of COVID, their training was suspended. Their full activation training stuff was suspended. They were doing, like the rest of the world, some Zoom training and so forth. So the training costs were, and the response levels were down. So the costs, we basically had a budget surplus for the year that was rolled in to offset some anticipated increases this year. So we were basically able to level fund this year's cost. So next year we could see an increase, but that's why this year stayed the same as the increases in the annual budget were offset by the surplus from last year's budget. So.
Thank you.
The next line item is the equipment repair and maintenance, which is dedicated to the annual service contract and any repairs to the CHS generator.
So the generator, and we do keep a small amount of pads and booms, and for the small, spills that whether it's 7-Eleven or somebody calls and the car's leaking fuel. The biggest chunk of that is the annual twice a year servicing, the minor service and the major service on the emergency management generator at Campbell. And we actually have some work that, again, we're trying to get scheduled on that. Some rust repair, and it's been there for 12, 15 years. So it's, it needs a little bit of love. And that also covers if we have to have it connected, or if we do an annual connection, have either Jolt or somebody come in and make the connections, because we have to have an electrician make the connections the way it's set up. So it's not something we just go over and plug and play and fire up the generator. So
Do you run it under load a couple times a year?
we do try to at least once a year coordinate with the school, either when we set it up for a potential storm or something, then we'll do it.
Again, it's been a little bit challenging over the last year to get that done, but we do try to run it, work with particularly Jolt, because they're the ones who installed it. They're familiar with it. And they've been really good about calling up and saying, hey, can you get over there in the next, few hours and get it hooked up for us in case we need it type thing. So we do make every effort to load test it once a year, but it does create a disruption on the school. So we try to, and it's not often that the school's not being used. So,
Yeah.
but
And the last item is equipment purchase. So this is a replacement, maintenance, and repair of your communication equipment at $1,500.
the last line.
Yeah. the last line.
So that was actually, we added that last year because of the challenges we were facing with getting protective equipment and so forth and we didn't spend any of that. We were able to ultimately get through the state and so forth, all the protective, but it's really just there should we run into another issue. We have, as a town, have some line to start charging equipment to ultimately back charge or recover from FEMA. So we didn't expend any of that this year. So
It'll be a good Kerry Douglas Budget Committee member discussion about expendable trust fund.
Yes.
Only joking.
no,
Only
and we
joking,
had talked
Kerry.
about that because of the size of it. It really,
She'll remember that.
I know, she's probably watching.
She'll call you on it.
You'll receive your call.
Do we have any comments or questions on the emergency management 4290.10?
Speaks for itself.
Okay, hearing none. We're at fire hydrants 4220.90. One of our favorite subjects.
Yeah. Well, this year, it's possible that we could have some good change in direction instead of it increasing, maybe decreasing. The first hydrant, we only have one hydrant from the city of Manchester, and we did receive notification that hydrant rental will increase. So you can see it will be a change from $640 per year to $740, so $100 increase. The other one is the 255 hydrants, plus or minus hydrants that we have through Pennachuck, and through the rate case that's pending right now at the PUC. At this point now, I'm just being advised that we carry 6 months of no increase and 6 months of a 14.3% increase. We're very hopeful that that's going to be the worst case scenario, which will result in, as you see, a decrease here of $17,631. That I'm really hopeful that we're going to see as we get closer to the end of the year. It might be a few months into the new year that number will decrease further.
Right.
I can tell you that any day now, the PUC will be announcing a temporary rate increase of 14.3%. I mean, that's out there, but the residents of this town are going to receive notification that the PUC has allowed a temporary rate increase of 14.3%. And that will remain in effect until the permanent rate is decided upon.
I'm going to ask the question. Why are we paying so high a rate compared to other towns? Under Pennachuck's love.
The answer, I asked that question to the city of Manchester. I'm like, how do you do it? How come your hydrants at this rate? And, the director kind of chuckled and said, well, we're a city. We're not a quasi-private, public partnership. And, so they're a city operation versus a utility that's under regulations of the PUC.
Check with Nashua.
Nashua runs, as I understand, they own the water district. So
Makes no sense to me.
well, that's some of the stuff that's been what's been going on right now through the rate case is that there has been some studies done that has been paid for jointly with the town of Litchfield, Londonderry, and some with the other participating communities before they dropped out, where there was a cost analysis, and there were some items that were identified that most, it appears shouldn't really be part of the calculation for the fire hydrant rental fee. And it should be more applied to the general users. That cost should be redirected to that, to all the general users. So I think over the next, 3 to 6 months, you're gonna be able to meet with our legal counsel in non-public and get a briefing on this. And eventually publicly it will come out as to what, the final rate will be for our hydrants. And like I said, I'm very hopeful that it's going to be, much less than the $17,000 decrease.
Just find it to be very, very expensive to have something you don't use very often. It doesn't make sense with surrounding communities on the rates. Makes no sense.
Well, hopefully something positive will come of it. Okay, anything else? Thank you, gentlemen. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good job in your budget.
Is ambulance still done?
Oh, yeah. You want to, we can do it.
Okay.
Oh, did I skip one? Maybe Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if we missed one.
If you wanted to do the ambulance before the chief leaves,
definitely.
just in case
Sorry.
there's any,
Didn't realize it jumped it.
I don't know if we jumped it or not, but
You did.
You do everything about it, so.
Oh, same.
So let's do ambulance, 4215.10.
all right. So there's 2 lines in your ambulance budget. The first one is the service contract. And we're anticipating that the cost, we're just looking at, our run rate currently right now, we pay 4 quarterly payments. We've paid the first 2 at about $30,000. So looking at last year's expense, the exact expense was $60,500. So we're looking at carrying $60,500 for 2022. It's kind of, with the way the contract structure, it's a little difficult to actually determine what the cost will be. So it's always give or take, a few thousand here or there, because part of the calculation is the Hudson's adopted budget. So there's some percentage of the budget, percentage of the actual call volume. All of that's wrapped into a formula that generates the quarterly bills. Based on last year's cost and the way we're trending right now, it looks like we're pretty comfortable with the $60,500. The next line is the bad debt. So when we're actually in the agenda this evening, you'll see that we'll be talking about writing off some of the bad debt. So the way it works right now is when a resident of Litchfield or anyone, a trip is generated from Litchfield, don't have to be a resident, but any service is provided here in Litchfield, the Hudson Ambulance Service will bill for that service, try to collect. If they're unable to do it after, I think, 2 or 3 attempts, then they bill the town. And we're responsible for paying that bill to the town of Hudson. We then take over, we start our collection efforts. And after about 3 attempts, if we fail, we then will eventually turn it over to the Board of Selectmen, ask that it be written off and turned over to a third-party collector. And then they go after the debt collectors, and they start, doing that legal process. So this amount here of $10,000 helps cover those costs that we're not able to collect.
Comments or questions on 4215 ambulance?
No, that was part of the paperwork we had tonight.
Correct.
Was of debt collections.
Yeah,
We don't go after the people that have passed away, right? We kind of let that ride.
So it gets written off. And
So we try to, and then when somebody calls and says they have no estate,
There you go.
there's nothing we can really do, and our auditors want at least 3 years off of our books.
I just don't like going after somebody who died.
So you'd be surprised on how many years it may take for someone to actually notify us that this person no longer exists, and these letters just get ignored.
Okay, next.
Okay, thank you.
If I might just
Sure.
take one moment. I meant to mention it earlier, I apologize. So we've started doing way early this year, late last year, some joint training with police department. Through Captain Scotty's efforts, we just were informed today, I received the packet today. We did training, active shooter type warm zone training last January, February, together, both departments, side by side, so forth, through the New Hampshire Fire Academy. The PD has a lot of the equipment. We had none. Working with the captain and really due in part to his time and efforts, applied for a grant. We were informed this morning, or I got the mail today, that we received the grant, $6,000 to outfit the fire department with the ballistic helmets and jacket, vests and everything for our medical people to go in and work side by side at a active shooter incident. So if we can put that on the next agenda for a acceptance, so we can move forward with it. But again, it really was through Tom's efforts that we were able to get this far, and he's got another joint one in to try and get us more of the money that others don't use. So
Great. Fantastic. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
but that's how collaboration works. So
Perfect.
he's a whiz with a pencil, and
He's not afraid to ask.
and he's not afraid to get it for us. So we'll take it.
I like spending other people's money.
Pencil pushing.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I like spending other people's money.
But yeah, if we could get that on the agenda so we can
Yeah.
accept it, that'd be awesome.
Thanks.
We'll be back.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Doug. Have a good night.
You know,
Take
that
care.
is a statement you should never make before you present your budget.
This is true.
You know, that's-
Federal funds.
All right, come on forward,
Not other
boys.
people as
Come
in
on.
towns.
Chairman,
Yeah, we know exactly what you mean. Come on up here.
With that,
Chairman,
excuse me, sorry, Rich.
yes, I just had a comment with respect to Mr. Leary's comment concerning dead people ambulance runs.
Yes.
And it's been my experience that some people are better at paying their bills after they pass on.
True.
There's a lot of truth to that because they have life insurance.
With that, we'll move on to Police Administration 4210.10. Welcome, Chief. Welcome, Captain.
Good
Appreciate
evening.
guys
Thank you for
coming.
having us. And thank you for your time and for the opportunity to present our 2022 budget. The majority of the increases that you'll see this evening are related to salary increases. And so with that, we can get right into the line 110 PD salary administration. You'll see an increase of $4,702. And this reflects a 2% salary increase for both the captain and myself. Both of us are entering the third year of our contract, and January 1st, we'll receive that 2% increase. For 111, the PD officers, you'll see a $32,860 increase, and that reflects a 3% wage adjustment, and that was approved by the voters for their contract. And, again, very thankful for the union this past year to defer their wage adjustment until October 1st of this year. And then they'll receive that 3% for next year. There's also a degree attainment for Officer McDonald for $2,000 for an associate's degree. So there's a $2,000 increase. We did not have any degree attainments this present year. You'll see an increase for line 120, PD wages, administrative assistant, and 121, the PD prosecutor. Both reflect the merit increase. Both of those two employees received a 3% merit increase, and that's why you see the adjustment there. For our 140 PD wages and overtime, we're going to leave that level funded. We're not going to increase that. We're in line to utilize the majority of that overtime wages for 2021. We feel it's still a good number. It does not reflect the 3% increase, which would have been a little over $2,000. But I believe that as we're getting back up to full staff, that we can manage with that number and hopefully come in a little less with full staff. Moving down to 149, I'd just like to highlight the PD overtime training. That's going to remain the same. Again, we did not add a 3% increase. And also for the overtime for the SWAT officer, we kept it the same, and we feel that that's still a good working number for us. Much of this, the next couple line items, the PD uniform allowance, that's for the laundering for the union members, that stayed the same. Our community detail, we're going to stay the same at $12,000. This year we saw a little less activity also in 2020 due to COVID-19. But when the school gets back to their football games, their dances, and some more community events, that's a good working number that we generally use all or go a little bit over, but we're comfortable with that $12,000. The health insurance, the dental insurance, the long-term disability insurance, those are all numbers that will be generated through Karen and Troy. You'll see that line 342, our PD software support has increased. And again, these are the fees to maintain our records management system, our LexisNexis, which is our legal software for our prosecutor and for us to review different cases and whatnot. I've increased the line 355, the PD pre-employment screening, to reflect 2 hires. If we were able to replace an officer this year, hopefully we could get that done, and moving forward towards the budget committee meeting, I may be able to reduce that, but this is the actual cost for 2 officers to go through for their drug testing, for the psychological, and their physical examination. All of those are required by the police academy. Our PD printing, we reduced by $100. Our dues stayed the same. The biggest change, well, one of the larger changes that you'll see is under 660, our PD vehicle repairs and maintenance. That's an increase of over $4,000. And the reason for that is to reflect what it's costing us to have the brakes on the frontline cruisers replaced. On average, each frontline cruiser gets their brakes replaced 1 time per year. We had budgeted in the past for approximately $500 per car. And then as I was looking at the numbers, 1 brake job was just over $1,300, 2 were over $1,500, and another was over $1,000. So we took the average and at $1,350 for each vehicle to get their brakes replaced once per year. So it's necessary for the safety of the officers and for the safe operation of the vehicle. Our PD books and periodicals, you'll see that's reduced by $330. We're going down to just 2 copies of our criminal code and our motor vehicle code. Most of the officers now are accessing the statutes through their phone, through the computer. The prosecutor likes to have a copy for him, and then we just like to have 1 general copy at the station available for, in the event that someone couldn't access internet. Uniforms and accessories remains the same. That's per the contracts. Our ammunition supplies and purchases, we're going to leave that the same at $6,500. But for those of you who do any shooting, I'm sure you've probably seen the high increase in ammunition.
Oh, yeah.
I reached out to our supplier, AAA, who's out of Dedham, Massachusetts, and they advised to expect about a 10% increase. But I think with how we've been managing our ammunition, we're good. But in the future, I think we're going to have to reevaluate that line item. If we keep seeing that high spike for ammunition cost. Our PD equipment purchase line is going to drop by $110. We have 6 officers who need to be outfitted with bulletproof vest. Again, that's also contractual, and they expire every 5 years. So this is the year that the rotation for the most officers need their vest replaced. So there's an increase there. And then we had the great opportunity to have our shooting range repurposed, and we'd like to buy some equipment to have so we can outfit that and be self-sufficient at our own range. For the 760, the PD cruiser purchase, you'll see an increase here. Again, like the fire chief spoke earlier, there are no state bids available for 2022. There are also, there's not a deadline available for vendors to put in their pricing. We reached out to McMulkin Chevrolet last week, and the captain spoke to the manager today. He wasn't able to give us any idea of what a new vehicle would cost, when he's going to be able to get anything. And in fact, he's trying to sell pickup trucks to departments and some of the state agencies because he doesn't believe that he's going to have access to these Tahoes. So we took a best guesstimate for what we thought a new vehicle would be at the state bid level, which was approximately $45,000. We did a Carfax and did some research on what you can get for the Car 5, which is a 2018 Chevy Tahoe. And the amount, it's incredible how much you can get for these and what they're going for. So we figure around $28,000 in trade-in value. Wow. So with that, and then the upfit at approximately $12,000, you're looking at $29,000 to the line item. Had a conversation with Town Administrator Brown last year. We were able to, and thank you to this board, to be able to purchase a vehicle, necessary vehicles prior to not have a tax to affect the tax cap. And one of the concerns that I spoke with Mr. Brown about was that if we did that at some point, it's going to hit the budget again, and we need to introduce it. So it's a little bit smaller of a hit, but to replace our oldest vehicle, we do need to include that in the budget for this year. And seminars and conventions, I reduced this line item by $3,000. The reason I did that is we were planning on paying tuition for all of our officers to attend the de-escalation training, and the police academy has put forward training that's available at no cost. So whether it's through their online platform or at the academy, now that trainings are back, we didn't have to plan on that cost moving forward. So I reduced that by $3,000, much like the fire chief said, hate to cut short of training, but the number that we'll be at will be good for us to move forward with leadership training, maintain our certifications for our SRO, our hostage negotiator, our field training officers, and then to help officers with their professional development, different crime scene tactics, interview and interrogation methods, community policing training, and whatnot. So I would just highlight that approximately $38,542 were contractual increases as it related to wage adjustments and pay increases. So on the bottom line there, you'll see an increase of $60,363. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions or concerns as it relates to this budget.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from anyone?
What kind of shape's the 2018 in that you're thinking of trading in?
It's in decent shape.
Yeah.
Where are we with Car 5? It's just shy of 80,000 miles. One of the big expenses that we had with some of the newer vehicles were as it related to the secondary backup battery. Was it Chevy who had failed to you can speak to it.
They didn't put a big enough, actually. I think John could actually speak to this. He was someone who kind of helped me out with it. The regulator switch for the batteries.
So there's an isolation relay. They didn't put a big enough one in, so it kept on shorting out and disabling the backup battery, or actually leaving it on all the time, so it was draining. Secondly, in one of the 18 to 19, they changed the wiring diagram. We never documented that, so things were being wired incorrectly, which is bypassing it. We've got through all those pains now. I think we're in good shape, right, Tom?
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But it is the vehicle is running good. That was a sergeant's vehicle when it first came online, and it's doing good.
It's soft use.
What's that?
Yeah, it's soft use.
Soft use. It's 80 miles. So.
Mr. Lynch said that. I want that noted. Not me.
He wants to spend my money.
I know you've been buying a lot through McMulkin, but have you tried any of the other Chevy dealers that might be able to, like banks?
The reason we had stuck with McMulkin is because they would honor the state bid.
Yeah.
Last year, when we were looking at purchasing other vehicles, we did look at other dealerships, and there was about $8,000 to $12,000 in cost.
So remember, Moken gave you a great deal.
Absolutely.
The state bid is the best way to go ahead and go through it, best way.
But we certainly will be, it seems like this will be a year where we may have to expand out.
It's hard to
Absolutely.
find vehicles right now.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I have no questions right now.
Okay, any other questions or comments on 4210.10 Police Administration? Hearing none, we'll move on to Police Support Services, 4210.50.
Thank you. The only increase here is in the first line, 110 PD wages for dispatcher. Both of our full-time dispatchers are members of the collective bargaining unit, and they, as the other union members did, receive a 3% wage increase. And you'll see that would be why there's an increase to line 110 for PD wages for dispatchers. And everything else was level funded and is the same moving down.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on 4210.50 Police Support?
I have none.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to Animal Control, 4414.10.
Thank you. The animal control from the bottom line purpose is staying the same, and this is level funded.
Any questions on that one?
I'm looking for it. Okay. Nope.
All right.
It's good.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Greatly appreciate it. Great job in your budget. Appreciate all your
Thank you.
efforts
Thank you for your
guys do.
time. Have a good night.
Take care.
We appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It's nice seeing you again. We
Yeah.
never get to see you again.
Scotty, you look good now. The sun did good on you. Yeah.
See you, Ben. See you, Tom. Take care, guys.
I'm at the beach. He just walks by.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Hey, Scotty, turn around. What are you doing?
You didn't trip him?
He was too far away.
The next is Information Technology, 4150.20. Mr. Burnell, welcome.
We
Always
should do
good to
these
have
in
you here.
numerical order next year.
What's that?
We should do these in numerical order.
Yeah, I'm going.
Or rearrange the spreadsheet, right?
There's a little behind the scenes work that goes on. Try to
Oh, see, he's blaming the IT.
line
director.
up the way the budgets get presented.
Well, I have to sit through all of them anyway, so I might as well be last. So,
John always volunteers to go last, so.
yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. This is probably, I don't know, Troy, you've seen the review, but I'm not sure. I've made some small adjustments, so I'll walk through it and hopefully people understand where I'm coming from. So line 110 is my contract. It is the second year of the contract, so it does represent a 2% increase from last year. I'll just note that the contract does state I will only work 24 hours a week.
You work much more than that.
I put it here as a little tickler. I do have an average about 33, 34 hours a week. And during the pandemic, it was a lot higher than that. So, but I'm
Thank you.
happy to do that. So moving on to telephone and data, line 341. This is the lion's share of some of my expenses outside. It deals with our wireless communications and data communications and so on. The first line, which represents the consolidated number, that is the monthly bill, and that represents the 12 months of this current year, which I don't see any more increases. Last year was still a growing year, because we didn't know exactly how all the transitions we did the year before were going to impact the budget. So this actually represents the month-over-month history. Line number 2, the PD dedicated data trunks. Those that's been zeroed out, that was my commitment. Once the new communication system came online, we'd remove that line because no longer have to use those services. Verizon Wireless, that is all of our wireless communications for both fire, police, anybody who has a telephone that has a wireless that's been paid for by the town. That does represent a little bit of an increase, predominantly driven by the fact that we've added on some new additional units over at the fire department for 2 other response units. They have iPads in their vehicles. That's how they get access to their records and how they do their calls when they're on scene, and also get other data. In addition, this year, at the end of at the middle of next year, Verizon will be shutting down the old 3G network, and we have to transition off of the 3G base that we have. So the cost increase there represents our monthly, but it also represents the additional cost for that year to get that equipment to transition over. So that's what that is. Comcast, which is our sort of our primary broadband service across town, it's a small increase, and it was really driven by we fixed the town hall service that they had. They had a little residential service that died at the start of the pandemic. We did an upgrade mid-year, and this represents sort of the monthly bills that were going on there. So again, small increase, but it's an increase nonetheless. So moving to 342, which is my software support line. This is where there is a significant increase, and I'm going to say it this way. There's a 51% increase, but before we all drop, the issue is that we move some lines around. We used to blend some of our software costs and our hardware costs into different lines, and it was getting hard to manage because our vendors give it as multiple bills. So we just kind of broke it up to make it more logically sensed or logically organized for me to keep track of it. But it also represents the consumables like our Google services, which we use for our email and production productivity tools. There's also a couple of asks in here too. And we're going to do a little show and tell in a second. I'll explain the ask, but let me walk down through it. If I remove the things that I moved around, it's represents a 20% increase. That being said, my biggest increase was in the Google services. Everybody who works in this town gets a Google account. We pay per seat, per user. Every committee member who participates gets a Google account because that's how the committees interact and that's how they share data back and forth. Every department head, every department employee, like I said, all gets one. We currently have 125 seats we pay for today. We have a small, it kind of goes up and down, but it simply says around 125. We have another 15 or so people we have to bring on board. We have to increase it. So I'm asking for 150 seats, which will give me that blend to get there. We pay $59 a seat a year. That is my costs for getting certified that I pass to the town. I don't do the markup, right? So if you go to Google, if you go and buy, you have to pay more. So I want to know you're paying the bottom there at that number. And I have to recertify every year to keep that ability to actually do that. So,
But as as somebody steps off a committee, you deactivate.
we
their
deactivate
seat,
and
right?
reuse the license, right? Exactly. And for anybody who may be listening, well, I have, I use Microsoft at home and I pay whatever. We pay $59 a year per person. If you buy into those other services that are different grades, you're paying $59 a month per person. So this is still a much more equitable way of doing it. That being said, leads into my next thing I said I would never do, and that was come back to this board and ask for money to support Microsoft Office. So most of the town employees and departments have been happy with Google Docs, and they've been working really well with Google Docs. Learning curve was a little there, but it's been well adjusted at this point. The police department continues to be the problem because we deal with all the different agencies and state agencies, and they still want to send Word docs, and they can't import them. They're all messed up because they're not built the right way. So what I'm asking is, we're asking the support the funding of 15 licenses across that department so that they have access to it in all their workstations so they can actually do that change. They will continue to use Google Docs and Google as their primary means of doing it, but when they have that inter-agency thing, they'll have that tool available to them today. Today we have it on a couple machines. It's always tied up or not the right one or that kind of thing. And it's very painful to move licenses from one to the other because it doesn't work that way. So that's where that's increased. And that's where I've asked for, it's $37.50 basically. And then the other increase, which we talked about, you've all seen the emails about the ransomwares and other agencies that have been, and other municipalities have been impacted by it. Several years back, we spent a significant amount of time investing in a tiered security approach so that we can protect the employees and all of our assets. Well, like everything else, those costs continue to go up. And I'm seeing anywhere between 3 and 5% on the software that is actually keeping us protected. And that is represented in here. And in the two tiers that I use that are the most important, like I said, I'm seeing a 3.5%, and then I'm seeing a 5%, and that's what that represents. We've had this software in service for about 6 years, The price was pretty consistent for 6 years, but like I said, last year has been good. And knock on wood, we haven't had any challenges like other agencies have had or other municipalities have had. As I said, I shifted some things around. We moved some maintenance lines and subscriptions on from 630 to 342. That's what kind of represents a lot of that major bulk, 20% that kind of increased. And for the most part, it resulted in from our telephone contracts or our telephone subscriptions that we have to run our telephone system, that software costs and maintenance, and the virtual meetings that we enabled during the pandemic so we can host virtual meetings when we need to have them. So that's what that represents. Now, as I said, I have an ask, and the ask is, we're working with all the different departments to try to simplify the paper that goes back and forth. I've done a lot of work in the police department and at the fire department using as many free services as I can use, but we've reached a limit where we can't extend these services to the public. We can't extend it to department heads so they can control approvals because we need to have to start paying for that service. The service we use is a company called JotForm, and they have a service where they call it enterprise grade, which allows us to integrate into all of our systems. And we can do things like fire department uses it for their call logs. When they get a call, they come into the building, they scan their phone, they fill out a form, and it records it. The police department uses it for their vacant property reports. Someone calls in, they fill in the form, it then generates a form that's given to an officer to actually follow through, and it also tracks it when they're coming back and forth. We want to be able to do that for the general public too. When someone interacts with the police department to get let's say, for example, an accident report, they have to come in and ask for it, fill out a paper form, and so on. Or they can call and download the form, fill it out, come in. We want to be able to they can come to the website and actually click on the form, fill it out, submit it. It gets sent for approval by the administration. It gets released. They print it and they can either email it back to them or that without even coming into the office. That's one example. The other example, which I'll show you, is going to be, I started this thing where during the winter time, we get a lot of phone calls about down mailboxes.
Oh, yeah.
So we started, trying to help the office it was always on paper everywhere. So we created a form in Google to do it so that when Donna got a phone call, she would track and then she could track the whole thing. We kind of want to move it another step. And the other step would be, you find it. This is when the demos gods don't really work very well for you. So a citizen can come to our website and actually report a hazard or any kind of, I'm just using it as an example, a maintenance request or damage request from the department. They can fill out this form, provide their email, their number, what kind of work is required, a description. They can upload a picture if they want to. When they submit it, it will generate in our back end. Find it here. Whoops, wrong place. You don't want to see my emails from my mother or father.
Sure we do.
No, you don't. They will get an email like this, and it'll show what they sent to us and what the details were they had, the acknowledging that we got it. Our department, depending on how we decide to flow it, will get this. It'll look like sort of like a work order. They'll see the report. They have the ability to, if I expand it more, they'll have the ability to approve it, assign it to somebody. So in the case of Kevin, he could assign it to Josh to go investigate or follow up, or just simply come to Donna. Okay, I have this. Let me call this person back and schedule someone to come up and take a look at it. Right. And the nice thing, like I said, when they submit it, it's not one way. They get an acknowledgement back. So now know that we know about it and it's been tracked. Again, very simple demo of it, but that's the power of what we can do with it. Additionally, we have time cards, right? Time cards, we have hourly employees. The hourly employees have to send all this paper in and we have to fill it out. Well, we could do it now online. It could be submitted they could fill it out, submit it to their department head. The department head can then approve it, then can send it off to payroll to be paid versus generating 5 pieces of email, signing it paper, scanning it in and sending it down or trying to consolidate it. That's something else we can do once we have that other additional module, which allows us to do this workflow approval. So that's what what's making up the increases around the software support. And again, we can, if the decision not to go forward, we don't go forward. It's just, this is one of the benefits of trying to do that. And I think the pandemic, unfortunately, or the conditions we're in are going to be around for a long time. And we scrambled a lot last year trying to come up with ways to capture information, do different things and so on. So moving on to 6:30 equipment maintenance. Again, we shifted some stuff out of here. My contract got moved up to the salary line. That got pulled out of here. There's some notable increases really around, again, maintenance has continued to go up. So our costs have gone up a little bit. That's kind of a moving target because every year I take stuff out of service. I get warranty stuff. So it's free for a while and then it goes back in after a couple of years. The one example there is, if you recall, about 3 years ago, we bought a new storage array for all of our data that we keep in here. We carried no dollars for that for 3 years. It's back in year 22. So that's one of the examples there. The other notable thing too is we've had about 5 years around with the door security system.
Yep.
And what I've learned is every year I spend about $300, $600 in repairing miscellaneous things in the doors. Electronics fail, especially the stuff that's outside they do fail. Things do wear. So that just it captures the yearly maintenance of the unit itself or the control unit, but then the additional cost for the what have you around the things that fail. Computer parts are going up. I usually carry it was flat for years, but UPS cost is going up, batteries are going up, and I'm going through more and more of them on a regular basis. A lot of my UPSs are now almost 6 years old.
Yeah.
If I haven't already proactively replaced the battery, it's I got failures. That's what that's representing. All right, moving to equipment purchases, 740. This is restoring some cost that was taken out from last year. Last year we took out of the budget my typical 5 computers every year. That we did that as an encumbrance, so there was no. That's why it shows as an increase. I am asking for some specialty monitors, some larger size monitors. One of the things that we have a challenge, especially in the fire and the police department, the screens are small. They have multiple forms up. They need a larger surface to work with. So we're looking to try to replace some of their older monitors with the newer ones, and then shift some of the newer monitors down to where there's older monitors. And that's what that $4,250 represents. The ID printer that was purchased last year, it's working pretty well. No addition there. We took out the MDT replacements. We have 5 active, 5 front lines. We replaced 2 last year, or we took out funding for 2 last year. We were only able to purchase 1 because of price increases. We're still holding on, so that we may get a deal at the end of the year, but we'll see. So we're just putting back in the cost of the 2 for this year. The lease agreement, I really don't play around with the lease agreement too much, but that's for the 2 printers that are in this facility, the police department and fire department. You heard the chief talk about some struggles he had next door. They have an old Xerox printer over there that they purchased a while back. I know we pay for maintenance on it, but we own it. It is beyond repair. It is, when we call the vendor, which I did today, they said, well, we luckily may not be able to get parts for it anymore. So we have to really look at replacing that. I don't have that captured here. It's always been out of my mind because it's been over there and it's captured over there, but it's something we have to kind of look at. And I was going to call Conway tomorrow and see what the options are. I would assume we'd have to come back and ask for an increase in this lease line to do that. And then, like I said, beyond other parts and stuff that are failing, I'm looking to replace, or not replace. I need additional UPSs. There are some work areas that don't have UPSs, and every time power goes out, we have other failures. So we just want to get those taken care of. And that's it.
So bottom line, you're up 39,864.
Yeah, it was 41 until this morning. I changed it. I tried.
Came down.
Yeah, no, I tried.
Do we have any comments or questions on 4150.20 information technology?
Yeah, Mr. LaSalle talked about the hidden costs of some decisions. That workflow, you're going to get a lot return on investment on that, 6,700 or whatever it was. Just the paper stack alone over there with everybody trying to sign off, right?
Yeah.
But the workflow can go to the right person.
Yeah, that's it. That's the other thing. Some of this stuff can be automated where you're just getting an email say approve or don't approve, and it goes, and that completely has a record, right?
So there's not a hidden cost there. There's going to be a huge benefit there.
Benefit, correct. Savings.
Yeah. More technology.
I know how much
The
you like
increases
that.
basically are software and
Yep.
the
Software and
no
hardware for the most part.
equipment purchase.
And then we held back on that.
Yeah, some it's because we held back. That's why it shows as a high increase. I meant to pull out the numbers and kind of gave it. I think when I figured it out, it was like a 3 or 4% overall increase. If I take out the would be nice to have, because I will call it nice to have. But to your point, I think it will pay back a lot of dividends down the road.
Yeah.
It will take time to get everything created, but
Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. LaSalle's.
John, if you could, can you identify the line items that protect the town from hackers?
Yep. So if you go to section account 342, it would be, let's see, the first line which says antivirus and malware protection. That is all what we call our on-device protections. And then the line that says domain filtering services and malware protection, that's our stuff that's outside the wall that checks stuff before it comes into the building. Those are the two predominant ones. I will also say if the line item that says support tools and management, the reason why things are always up to date, at least at some of the is I have a lot of tools that I can run and push and do a lot of work. Every weekend I pretty much do updates. I can update 70 of the machines that we have within the day by just a few commands and pushing stuff around. So if it wasn't for that, if I had to run around and do touch every computer, it would take, we would actually have areas of vulnerability because we wouldn't be able to do it. It's time consuming. So if I had to say, those were probably the three areas that actually help us stay protected. And I think the other thing too is that, we can't exclude the employees, and they've been well-trained and well-heard because we've experienced it. We've experienced it, and they are well aware of, if you didn't ask for it, don't open it. If you don't know who it is, don't open it. And, if you know who it is and you didn't ask for it, clearly don't open it.
So basically, to protect ourselves, it's 10 grand.
Yeah.
That's usually the text I send you. Steve, what is this? It's
Don't
junk.
open it.
It's junk.
Yeah. And Google also is part of the protection. That's where all of our email flows through, and they offer a lot of spam and different other protections that built into their environment too. So
I got a lot of stuff I get, and I just thought,
yeah,
just thought, oh, there's a new thing coming up. No, it's not.
So, Mr. LaSalle's brought up last time, I think, maybe it was on Facebook or something, but that town, was it Milford? One of the
Peterborough.
towns had
Peterborough.
a problem. That was
Peterborough.
through their bank though, right? That wasn't
Correct.
internal to their town hall, or was
that
it?
was social engineering. Yeah.
It was internal to their town hall? Ooh.
But it was social engineering, right? So they got a link that looked right and they processed it. And if they had the process that I think that we have in place where there's, I'm not sure what happened. We wouldn't have expected that to happen, right?
You mean they didn't have like a daily check and balance on the bank balances?
Well, like,
Wasn't that?
we pay the school via ACH,
Mhm.
but we initiate it, so, if they needed it beforehand, they'd usually contact Troy. And they can't get into our system, we go to the bank, and it takes one of us to upload it, and then it takes the treasurer to accept it.
You guys pushed the
And
money
then
up.
we push it forward to them, so.
And I don't know what happened to
Yeah.
the town. I don't know if they had a problem at their bank that did something, or it was in the town
But it
hall.
sounded like they authorized an ACH and they didn't realize it was not relevant. And then by the time it got
It
taken
wasn't
care
the school, it went somewhere else and not to the school's bank.
I'm not saying that's why he's asking it, but I think that was a concern he had last time.
Well, the other
I
issue,
think our town would too.
yeah, and I think
It
from the
was what,
financial
2
impact,
million?
there's been examples of communities around us that they've received malware that had all their data encrypted, and it's happened to a lot of hospitals and different entities. And that same thing, you'll get a download, they'll open up a PDF file, they didn't expect it, executed something, and whatever I have access to, I have now encrypted it, everything. And so now you can't open it up without paying a ransom for it. We did have one of those happen many years ago, but luckily we had everything backed up to the day. So we were able to restore it fairly quickly. And we changed a lot of the structure. That was when I first started. And then there was a lot of Wild Wild West, and we kind of cleaned that all up. So it hopefully would never happen again.
So the next question I have is that when Peterborough had their situation, luckily a pretty good percentage of it was covered by insurance. Do we have insurance that would cover us in the instance of where we had a major breach?
We do. It's through Primax, which is the same company that Peterborough was using. And they have, with this incident recently in Peterborough, they have recently sent out notices that they have expanded their coverage in this area as well.
Yeah, Rich, every year we answer a survey from Primex about what our process is, and if our process have changed, we've had to document how we do our backups, what we do to do proactive kind of things, and that's all part of paying in, well, part of acknowledging the fact that we recognize that we're at risk and that we're taking all the steps we can take. There's always room for improvement, but at the end of the day, we've got a pretty good system in place. I'm always trying to improve it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions on information technology? Okay. Here are none. Thank you, Mr. Brunel.
Very welcome.
Great job as always.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Moving on to health agencies, 4415.10. Mr. Brown.
So that's listed here on the budget because it is a line item, but there are there's nothing in the operating budget. That always is an annual, well, for the last couple of years has become an annual warrant article. And typically we'll get all the budget. They've actually started coming in. The budget requests will be in middle of October-ish. And we have a committee that's been established that will review those requests and come to the board to recommend. So
This will be what, third year, fourth year, third year?
At least a
third? No, maybe it's going to be our fourth
Could be
year.
the fourth year, yeah. Okay, next we have insurance, 4196.90.
Tracking back to the last one, we had talked about putting the food pantry in for something, right? Is this the department we were going to do it in, under health?
Yeah, but it would be under,
It's
we
under-
did that and we included it in that warrant article.
Warrant last year.
Oh,
We
okay.
broke
Yeah.
down all the different agencies and how much they requested.
It was
and what
actually
they-
listed, it was a
Yeah.
group that was
And
listed.
then we as a group said we wanted to add the food pantry to it.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
And that'll probably be the same this year when we go after that warrant
Right.
article. Put the food pantry back on it.
There's not much I can do. So the rest of tonight, you're going to start hearing some of this, but for town insurance, general liability, and then we carry, usually we've been lucky to be able to get support of carrying $2,000 for our deductible, which covers the deductible when we have a loss. But we won't get our new insurance rates, and this will be for our workers' compensation, the property liability, and our health insurance. We probably won't be able to get those rates until, again, late October. So right now, this is an area in the budget you need to be aware of. Usually the general liability insurance isn't a large increase. It's always the health insurance that we're got our eyes on. And the budget committee,
Hi, John.
they're aware of this. When we meet with them the first time, they understand that these are big numbers. The health insurance is always that wild card, but they're fully aware that we don't get the rates until late in the season. That's it for that one.
Okay. Next is personal administration, 4155.10.
Okay, so this is, you actually have some other insurance, but it's related to personnel benefits. So that's why you don't see it in the insurance section that we were just in. The first one is our short-term disability. We don't have the rates for that yet, so we're just carrying last year's number. Our the FSA administration, we know that, Karen, that's going to be down. We
Yeah,
must have got.
yeah, well, it's per person that signs up, and so I just did it by the census of what we have.
Okay.
Right now. Come next year, we'll more sign up, I don't know, but, it's cheaper.
So that's, as Karen said, that's driven really by the number of employees that sign up. Once a year, they have an opportunity, or when they're hired, to sign up for flexible spending accounts. And they can elect to put X amount into a spending account. We pay for the administrative fee for that. But the employee gets the benefit of participating as a tax benefit. And also when they elect, say, $800, they have access to the $800 up front. And then they pay, weekly payments to the town, to the fund. And Social Security, Medicare taxes, those are all driven by going throughout the budget and capturing different, wage increases. So that's really driven by the wage increases that were given in the prior year, new contracts. The big items in this account, as you'll see, is the New Hampshire State Retirement System. So we have 3 different groups. We have the employee retirement, firefighter, and police. So I think many of you probably heard last year when we were budgeting that July 1st, 2021, there was going to be an increase in benefits. So the 2021 budget captured 6 months of that cost. This budget is now capturing the remaining 6 months, but also all the increases in wages with the police contract and non-union wages. So you can see there's some significant changes here. The employee retirement up $15,932. Our firefighter $4,129. That's because we only have those 2 full-timers. The chief is not in the New Hampshire State Retirement System. All the call firefighters are not eligible. And the police department is an increase of $56,788. So that's a big number. But again, you've got your union contract wage increases. You've got 6 months that we didn't budget for last year. And it just adds up quickly.
Yeah.
Postponed it to this year, I'd say.
Now, the next line, wage increase. The way that our performance review works, throughout the budget, you'll see that for any of the non-contracted employees, the contracted employees, we show an increase, whatever the contract is. You heard the chief talk this evening about him and the captain, and that in his operating budget, he had that 2% that was driven by his contract. The non-contracted employees, non-union employees, we have the performance-based system in place. So when we implemented this program, we decided to do just basically there's a pot of money, and that is used throughout the budget for all the departments that are non-union. When you initially started this program, it was $15,000. So it's been $15,000, I think, now for at least 4 years. We have taken a look at what it cost last year, and we are now recommending that we go from 15,000 up to the 20, so that we can cover our costs. And again, this has been at 15,000 for the last 4 years. So you've got people that have gotten raises on raises and raises, and you're going to have to really take a look at increasing this amount to help offset the annual reviews.
And the reviews usually run 2 to 3%.
So the board will set those, and typically we set them on the police contract. That's what we have been doing. So they've been anywhere from 2% up to 3%. Let's see, what else we got here? So then the other two, the unemployment tax and workers' compensation, we're just showing no change right now, but obviously the workers' compensation, keep your eyes on that. That sometime can jump on us a little bit. But we've had a good lot. We really haven't had any losses, throughout the pandemic. So I don't see us seeing any major surprise there. Bottom line is personnel administration is up $84,672.
I know it's early, but have you rolled this up to see how much heavy lifting we're gonna have to do to stay under the tax cap?
It's early yet because we don't even have our tax rate set from the state, and so you're benchmarking against the tax rate to determine where we're at. On a fit, just trying to play with it a little bit today. I think we think we're right around
363,000.
Let's see here. No.
That's what am I
Right
looking
now, it looks like,
at? Looking at Sunday.
again, I don't have a 2021 tax rate set yet. So, but about $85,000 or over the tax cap.
Oh, so
Now,
basically,
that's without our health insurance, knowing what that's going to be.
so basically 4155.10, just get rid of that spreadsheet and we're right back.
But there's still a lot of opportunity for us to have, and we do this as we get closer and closer to finalizing and working with the budget committee, at looking at some other revenue sources, looking at how our budget's going to end up. You heard about the chief has a need for a new vehicle. The police department has a need for a new vehicle. If there's anything we can do to try to help offset those big
Correct.
jumps,
Yeah.
That could really help us big time. And let's not forget that, we're still learning a lot about the ARPA funds, but there is that component that is, to help with revenue loss. And so there could be an opportunity that we use those funds as well. I personally, at this point in time, I wouldn't want to use those funds to just reduce the tax cap or the tax rate. I'd rather focus on a capital, which reduces your budget, but just the roundabout way of getting it.
Unless you do the
For example, would be your paving program. Infrastructure is an allowed category. If you were able to agree to doing X amount of paving using ARPA funds, maybe you can reduce the operating budget, meet tax cap, those types of things.
So it looks like overall it's a 5.06% increase. This is under your summary
Yeah, under the
and $363,000.
And
And
once
that's
again, we know
gross.
it's early.
That's
So
that's
That's a
gross.
rough estimate. Yeah.
But again, that's gross expenditure. So that, it's a good number because you're saying gross expenditures versus gross next year.
And last year we did reduce a lot of funding in a lot of the line
We
items.
did. We absolutely did. But we
Because
have
the
to watch out
environment
for
was-
that.
yeah.
Tax cap.
And also the environment when we didn't know what the revenues was going to look like.
Correct.
We're going to have we are definitely going to have some work.
Yep.
But as you've seen from most of the presentations, a lot is just, it's driven by wages and benefits. And so, you're going to have to look at those things like the road paving, the purchase of vehicles, those types of things to try to, if you can make a big reduction and meet that tax cap, I think you're going to be looking in those areas.
So my question was a little premature, so let's go back to where we were.
No, I think I think the timing of it was good.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
And Karen and I knew we were going to be asked, so we spent some time on it today, trying to just kind of get a general feel of where we're at.
Well, I just jumped over advertising, then the review of the preliminary. So it was just in my head when I saw the $85,000 line item. Tax cap immediately came to mind.
So what were the last one? Advertising?
Advertising
regionals?
regional associations 4197.10.
Okay. So let's see here. We got printing. This is the voter guide that we've been working with our school department. So we've been doing the joint effort there. We don't no longer do the working with, obviously the local paper is gone. So public notices and ads. This is directly Board of Selectmen expense.
Mhm.
So the other departments, they have their own, budgets for advertising their legal notices. And dues and subscriptions, New Hampshire Municipal Association, $7,774. That's it was the actual expense for last year. We don't get their number until, again, end of October, early November. NRPC, their membership dues is out, and it is $6,288. So they've been holding their fee.
Under the voter guides, does the school pay for their share of that? Or
Yeah.
do we eat that?
Yeah, no, we split it 50-50.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any comments or questions on 4197.10, advertising regional associations? Okay, the last item on the budget review is the review of preliminary revenue estimates. Mr. Brown.
So what we typically do is when we're budgeting revenues for this time of the year, we really benchmark against the 2021 revenues. And we have put those together and submitted them to the state. The state will finalize, that's why we call it the revised MS form. When we go set our tax rate, the revenues for the town are actually set. So as of right now, what we've submitted to the state is what we're using. As you will go down, the area that continues to amaze me is the motor vehicle permit fees. We are recommending that we budget just under $2 million a year. They just can, every year I kind of budget conservatively, and then they just continue to, people just continue to buy cars, and we continue to make good revenue. So I think that's a real good number. The building permit fees, we thought that we were going to see this big decrease, last year. The exact opposite happened. It just,
All small stuff.
yeah.
It's not just here, it's everywhere.
Just another thing here with the town clerk's office, dog license fees. We budgeted $9,000 last year, but we're pretty comfortable budgeting $10,000 this year. We generate $10,000 in revenue.
During COVID, a lot of people got pets.
Yeah, that's a good
There were
point,
a lot
actually.
of dogs.
Yeah. And then we have down in revenue from the state of New Hampshire, because this will be set by the state, but from correspondence we recently received, it looks like the highway block grant revenue should be coming in at pretty close to that $200,000 figure that we were concerned about. But we'll see this fall when they set the number. So the bottom line, we're looking at an additional $53,000 of potential revenue for 2022.
Good. Any comments or questions on revenue? Okay, hearing none, that closes our budget review. Next, we have LED streetlight proposal. Mr. Brown.
All right, so during the budget review, the selectmen had talked about looking into LED streetlight conversion. And this has been discussed by the town this time of the year for the last 3-4 years. I had received a tip from a resident that it was a company that they were familiar with that I should make contact with, Affinity. They've done a lot of work throughout New Hampshire and Maine, and I think up in Vermont. They've been very responsive from the day that I made contact with them. A company down on the seacoast, they're promote themselves as a veteran, I don't know if they're 100% veterans, but they're a veteran-based business. They make their LED lights right there in New Hampshire, so they have control over their inventory, and they do everything from start to finish. They've taken a look at our all of our accounts, and so that's what they do to start off. They take a look at what your annual costs are, the number of lights you have, and they have determined that we would be eligible for a rebate. So the net cost to convert all of our LED lights, I think we have 42 of them, would be $17,653. That would result in annual savings of $7,574. So your annual streetlight bill would be right around $5,300 a year. And we're currently at somewhere
13,
around 13,000. This is calculated out with a simple payback of 2.33 years. So obviously, this is as far as your investment, return on investment, and just the fact that you're putting out there a modern street light with good quality lighting that's going to be maintenance free for about 20 years. You're going to have a couple that will fail right at the start, and then after that, you're pretty much based on historical use. These things are solid, and they just continue to work for 20 years.
So is that $475 per fixture cost installed?
Installed, yeah.
Really?
Because they're not. It is just a retrofit.
Yeah,
They're
but
taking the
still.
head off and putting the head on.
Shocked that it's that inexpensive.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of your department, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Try to stay away from lighting, but
Yeah.
And I don't know if they, we
pretty
would be
good.
eligible. Not that changes the numbers that much, but you would. They said that this project would be eligible for the EverSource rebate up to $4,100. So
that's good.
So I really would like, and I'm sure the board wants to continue to pursue this. The company's next step would be to formalize a relationship, make a commitment, and then they would come out and do an actual site visit and visit every single streetlight, get a GPS coordinate, inspect the light. They do some calculations for sizing up the head. And I just think for this kind of money, we can find the fund. I'm very confident we can find the funds. We have the ARPA funds. We have some unanticipated funds that I'm going to be talking to the board about in another meeting, where we're going to be getting some reimbursement from our health insurance company and our property liability company. So those are unanticipated funds, and the board can actually vote, and after holding a public hearing, vote and spend those funds for any specific purpose.
I like how quick the payback is.
We're talking all the street lights as well as our yard lights.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
On the surface, this looks like a no-brainer to me. Just a question. Currently, who owns our streetlights?
So currently, right now, EverSource owns those lights.
Okay, with this new deal, who would own the streetlights?
Is my I don't know, Rich. I would have to ask. I think the things have changed a little bit since the last time I looked at this, where I always was told that EverSource no longer owns the street light, but it sounds like they would still continue to own the mast arm. We're responsible for the light fixture itself.
That's going to be the change.
And that's going to be the change.
Because right now, the lights that we have out there, if they go out, they'll call them and they'll fix it with what they have.
Yeah.
Will they come back and fix it with the LEDs in there? But they're also getting less money per se per year. Okay, so are they going to cut that service down?
Right. So the company said that where things have changed, because I've always been told that once you convert, you own the fixture, you own everything, and Eversource will not come and repair the light.
That's fine.
I'm now being told that Eversource will do that work for a fee. Or you can hire this company. They have a crew that will come out and do maintenance. Or you can hire any so there's some electrical companies out there that have bucket
Bottoms
trucks.
are here.
It's the bucket truck. That's
Yeah.
the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, and same thing with the yard lights too.
Because they have a disconnect, apparently, that's part of the light fixtures, explaining to me that because there is no meter, so there's some disconnect
There is.
to turn the power off.
Okay,
Uh,
that was my question.
Is there a warranty on these LED lights?
Yeah, I think I read that there's a 1-year warranty, call it bumper to bumper. So when they have to come out and you have a little bit of failure, there's no cost whatsoever. And then there's a longer warranty on the fixture itself. I don't know exactly, but the labor to change the light out is not covered. But this company is, I just wanted to kind of present it this evening. They're more than willing to do a presentation to the board and explain all their process and answer all your questions. So
Love to hear it.
So
Like I said before, on the surface, this looks like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fully agree. We should get more information on it.
So we'll get, for our next meet, I'll reach out to them. Hopefully they'll be available. But I really would like to have them present at your next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, any more comments or questions on the LED streetlight proposal? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to uncollectible receivables. Mr. Brown.
So we started to talk a little bit about this during the budget review. Karen's just coming off a very long process with the auditors this year with the COVID process. No one physically really be in the building, everything exchanging emails and information electronically. It's been a long process, but you will be receiving probably on I think it's October. Yeah. The auditors will present to you. They'll be virtual, but they'll give you a review of the audit. And what they do is they always, at this time of the year, they remind us that they want to have the town should only be carrying 3 years of these outstanding receivables. Anything older than 3 years, we should formally write off and, as we said, transfer over to the private collection agency. So
Right here in the green package.
it wasn't long ago that we started this process on an annual basis because we had how many years worth of receivables outstanding, a very large amount, and like $50,000, and that's what drove this to say that's not good accounting. You need to age these things out and get them off your books. So we're bringing forward to you this evening the amount of unpaid ambulance bills, the amount of $3,816.43. That amount represents everything that's older than 3 years. And in order for us to document and write them off, we need to have the board vote to authorize Karen to write those off. And like I said, if these have not already been sent to our collection agency, they're sent. I know. So like you said, there's some of these are uncollectible.
Yeah. Yeah, we deal with this every year.
Because otherwise I send them pretty much right away to collections.
Need a motion?
We need a motion to approve the writing them off.
I make a motion that I approve the write them off due to the nature of it. These are not uncommon to occur. They've been going around. This is what happens.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Queenan. Any further discussion?
Leave the dead people alone.
All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0.
Let's make sure there's no dead people on that list.
Thank you, Rich.
Other business, we did have 3 things that were added. First was the Mel's by Mr. LaSalle, which I think we addressed in public input. Are you good with that?
Sort of, but not really.
Okay.
I haven't been on the board that long, but it seems like we've had several instances where Mel's or their tenants or whatever have come in for different variances and so forth. And when I heard about this weekend, this deal with the signs, I figured, well, this is just another instance of that happening. And I think that we as a board should say that no requests for any sort of variance will come to the selectmen. Everything has to go through the planning board. And that would eliminate, now, when I saw the letter, they said they had this letter that gave them permission. Well, it wasn't very long ago that we went over this in our meeting, and signs along that stretch were not even discussed. I think we discussed parking in the cornfield and so forth. But then all of a sudden, they said they had a letter from town council giving them permission to put these signs up, which I read the letter, and the letter was very wishy-washy, but it didn't say anything about signs. So I think we should make it a policy that no longer will we be giving permission for anything that doesn't go through the planning board. And I think that would just be a really good policy for us to hold to.
Rich, there could be things that would come up that the planning board may not have the authority to act on. Only the Board of Selectmen can actually make that decision. So in that type of case, what I believe you're saying is that this board just wouldn't make a decision or have that discussion until at least the planning board has had an opportunity to provide input to the board. So in those cases
we are the enforcement arm.
Well, I'm just saying in cases where, like, remember COVID last year when the food cart guy wanted to be somewhere. So planning board doesn't have the authority to say yes and no to that.
Correct.
But we could ask the planning board to review and input before this board makes the final determination.
We could do a better job of closing the loop.
And we could have, with these past events, might trigger an emergency meeting on the planning board's part. But yeah, I think, I'm really hopeful that the going forward here, Jeff Blackwell is, really looking at site plans and really coming up to speed on zoning regulations. And I've been working with him, and I think going through, if Mel's goes through their next site plan review and update, I'm really hoping that can flush out some of these unknown issues, like what just happened this week in the festivals. These music festivals, like Mr. Charbonneau said, we can't figure out where they're even a permitted use. So that discussion needs to happen with the planning board, and they can act on it and allow an area and parking and noise and hours of operation. But they may also, before they get to that point, they may be required to go to the zoning board of adjustment and get a variance to be able to do that. So there's a lot to happen. And if for whatever reason they choose not to amend their site plan and stay status quo, then I think some of the stuff that we just recently put in writing will flush out some issues that we currently have right now. And so I don't
A
know.
copy of the letter and the date on that.
What's that?
You have a copy of the letter and the date on that?
Yeah, it was emailed. I can email it around again, but
It was emailed to me?
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw. Yeah, but differences of variances of what's supposed to be done on the property, that's not an emergency. You know,
No.
we have to handle emergencies here.
Correct.
That's correct.
What they did, I did not think it was an emergency, but they had already gone out to the public advertisers. So I understand what Rich is saying, that if you are supposed to be a spooky world scare place or a summer bumper boat, whatever, you're not a concert venue. That is not an emergency. And the abutters really should be noticed for a concert like that. So I think Rich is correct on that. I understand we do have emergencies that happen. But that's just overwriting a site plan.
Yes, and I think, based upon what Troy said, and I think everything should go through the planning board, even if it's an emergency. I would like to hear what the planning board has to say about it, what their recommendation is. And then if we have to give approval, then we know exactly what all the details are. Sometimes I think we're presented with something, it's a last minute, has to be done, it's already advertised, so our backs are against the wall. And I personally, as a selectman, do not like that. And I think any time that we let that happen, it just makes the next time easier, you know? And I think, you know, when Jeff gets his feet on the ground, I think he needs to make an inspection of that whole property and look at all of those structures and make sure they're up to code. Whatever code it is for them, they need to be up to code. And I would fully support an effort to do that.
Okay. Any other comments?
I just need to get back to the name. If you say you're a spooky world and you have horror, whatever you do, or you're a restaurant in there, or you're a summer place, you should not be doing things that is not in your name. Legally, your name tells you what you do. I can't go out and say I'm a business trader if I'm an IT person. You know, my company says I do this. I don't go and do all of that. So I think legally we have to look at some of this.
Your regulations gotta be looked at more.
You know,
Anything.
I think you always got to go back to what does the site plan allow?
Yeah, that's the
You know,
contract.
It
you
does
have.
say Funway Park. You could really speculate on what fun is and how it goes, but I think we always have to push back on what does the site plan allow?
Mhm.
Back when I was here, those questions came up. I went to the board. I asked them. I used to go to the board, explain what they wanted to do for one day event. They had no problems to the board at the time. Okay, it wasn't an issue, but they were informed. Okay, of what was going on. Police was involved. So was fire. So it's just there's something else in the works here.
Yeah. You know, over the last 3 years, I've been interim zoning enforcement officer, so I've learned a lot, and I've learned to go and look at these site plans, and so my take is when I look at the Mel's Funway Park site plan, everything's laid out of what's going to happen on that property. You got bumper boats, you got batting cages, you got ice cream, you got a restaurant, you got kiddie little rides now, and it's all there. And there's parking calculations that have been discussed with the planning board to make sure there's enough places to park cars. Everything's designated, and it's very, very specific about Spooky World. And they get into very specific dates that during this period to this period, Spooky World's going to operate. And it's going to operate in this area, and this is going to be the hours of operation, and this and that. And that's what, when you really think about the public process that goes through approving a site plan, the general public is notified, the abutters get their certified letters. And these people that come to those meetings and go through the process for 6 months, they've been led to believe that what you see there in the operation now, the bumper carts, the mills, the restaurant, that's going to operate. And we're going to have this one-time event every year. Spooky World is going to be from this time to this time. And I walk away, and now I start having concerts on Sunday nights in September, and July 4th, fireworks are going off, and big 3 bands playing, starting at noon, going to 1 a.m. I think that's the problem that we have right now.
Definitely. If it's not on the site plan.
That's not on the site plan. That's not what the neighbors were told. That's not what the general public was told. That's not what our fire department, police department, the zoning enforcement doesn't know really what's going on. So I hope that this winter we get this resolved.
And I think Rich made good points. I mean, we have sat here and discussed violations on at least 3 occasions. And they sat here and said they haven't done anything, but I mean, they did go into the land that was in current use, started using it, then get permits for that, I believe. The situations with the pole barns, and then again this. And I don't even have a problem with them having a concert if they tell all the neighbors, hey, we're going to have a show. Their communication skills seem to be lacking severely. And like Rich had said to me on the phone yesterday, it seems like they're better at asking for forgiveness than permission. And it's got to stop. It does have to stop.
It's almost like they're subletting their land out. Yeah.
Well, we've had what? The band that played just recently in town, that played there, just showed up one time and did it. We didn't know anything about it. Police and fire did, but the zoning in town didn't.
Yep.
That's about it. That was about it. And then the other thing we get up there, corporate events is what the tents are for, and that's always been allowed.
It's on the site
Okay.
plan.
Yep. Okay, corporate or private or to me, the wording is the issue. You can have a small dance in there at a corporate place, okay? And it's not a corporate event per se. It could be a small group. The dog could be in there. It all depends on wording, okay? It all depends on your buddies. That's basically the bottom line. As for the buildings, they were good. Yeah. Things changed. We had them all sprinkled.
I don't ever remember seeing signs like that going up and down 3A like they were yesterday. Not that size.
Not that big.
Going all the way down. No.
No, it's been a long, if they did it, if they probably did it when they first started, and they probably put them up there, but not that far down.
They're not that big. I mean, those are
Right.
huge signs.
Yeah, they look too new. That was me. Okay, I'm not gonna get into that. That's water over the dam.
So it'll be interesting to see how everything goes at the planning board. You said October 2nd?
Good luck.
I believe it's the 5th.
5th, yeah, 2nd's a Saturday.
Good.
So we gotta wait till the planning board? Do we want to?
Let's hear what they have to say. That's what the planning
Well,
board says.
I mean, I like what Rich is saying, but it's too much of a big spread because there are some things we're probably going to have to go and address, as you were saying. But I do think we should try in the future to get more of planning board's input before we make any judgment.
Yep. I'd agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I think that's a decision this board makes, and then you stand by it.
Yes.
And out of courtesy, I will inform the management of Mel's so that they're aware, because if there's going to be something that requires this board's action, they're going to need a plan for it, because planning board meets,
Yep.
you guys need, I don't know, 20 days notice. I really don't see the planning board scheduling emergency meetings to provide some verbal guidance to the Board of Selectmen. They're going to say, we meet on this date, and get the information to us. We'll put you on the agenda.
Zoning board too.
You know,
But abutters have the right to know and be invited.
Well, the zoning would not be part of it if it's an allowed use.
Correct.
The interpretation of what it says can be read many ways, allowed uses in that zone. But if you're gonna be picky and say this, you have to get a good list. That is not what the intent of the zoning was for.
Mhm.
Okay, it was use judgment. Then it was appeal to either the building inspector, appeal his decision that it's an allowed use. Okay, and you're gonna go to the boards for site plan stuff. That's what's going on. I had many discussions when I was here, talking to the chair and talking to the board that this is what's gonna happen. Okay, and they said, well, it's one day event, it's not gonna be a problem. Or something like that. The years pass. Today, it's a whole different world. There's a feud going on. I'll let it go with that.
Am I the only one that missed that we're gonna be 4 bands there? I thought it was gonna be, the restaurant wanted to have a big event outside and it'd be,
That's all I ever knew about.
I didn't know there were gonna be bands there,
No.
right?
I heard there was gonna be some entertainment, but
Entertainment,
I thought, yeah,
4,
I
you
did
know,
not
I
know
probably
4
would have
bands, no.
said no.
No.
I
So I
did not
think
hear 4
they're
bands.
telling us what was going to be there was a little vague. So, you know.
We
you
received, just so you
just-
know, we received, Mr. Blackwell received a complaint today from across the river from residents in the town of Merrimack.
About noise.
Yeah, because the concert music was loud and it went, it was Sunday night and it went till 10 o'clock at night. And so they called this morning saying, what was that? And da-da-da. And
Now, we gotta deal with their
so-
noise all the time.
yeah, no, I know, but I'm just, no one even thought about that.
We have the same problem with them when they have their fireworks. Okay? Okay, or they have some band being played on the football field.
Hmm.
Okay?
No big deal.
My only point of bringing that up is I don't know if the planning board, as Mel's continues to amend their site plan and consider expanding their use, are there people on the other side of the river that are potentially impacted? Is this a regional impact or are they considered a butter? I don't know.
No. By legal? No.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
No. If the official
We'll
complaint
take
on the
care of
river, I'm
Litchfield.
happy.
Take care of our town, that's all we can handle.
Mr. LaSalle's also wanted us to add on the status of bottled water in PFOAs.
Yes, just one more comment, Mr. Chairman, before we
course.
move on. The other thing that I wanted to bring, I don't know if the rest of the board has been privy to this letter that came from Laura Spector Morgan and was sent to Andy Perlman. And this was specifically has to do with the signs. And it's very short. It says, Andy, I spoke with the selectmen last night, and while it was not unanimous, they agreed to allow the 2 previously scheduled events to occur while the site plan amendment process plays out, provided that all of the parking is in the cornfield and there are signs pointing all events parking to that area. Thank you, Laura. So they were using that letter as, evidence
Conditions.
that the selectmen approved the whole thing. And, I think we need to,
What's the date on it?
it's another case where you give an inch and it goes a mile, And I think that we need to come to some understanding with our council that, a very general letter like this might not work for these guys.
Very good.
Am I
point.
off base on that?
No.
No.
I don't
Not
think
at
so.
all.
Troy, did you send that letter?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I never saw it.
I think it's an email.
Not in my
I
stuff.
think I saw it somewhere.
I don't recall. I remember the email going out. I don't know if
It was after our last meeting.
I don't know if I forwarded it to you or not.
I'm sure you didn't. I just checked.
So our last meeting.
Why don't you just
And we met
redo
with
it again? Because I question, I understand what Laura's doing, I understand what Annie's doing. I'd like to know where this all come apart, the cornfield thing. Okay?
I drove down that road on my errands that day. I knew we gave permission. I was thinking the restaurant could expand outside and they'd be on the premises there. Seeing somebody in a yellow vest directing traffic, I'm like, what's going on? We didn't approve anything like this.
That wasn't, yeah,
So just the look of it, I'm like, it looks like it's very big. So again, the disconnect between what you're telling us you're going to do on the property, so you get this special.
presentation.
Yeah.
Presentation, we
I
didn't
don't
get it
want
all.
to trust it again.
We learned from this.
But it's that far out of whack. The person approving to say it could go is driving down the road with a completely different expectation. That tells you
That's
all
right.
you need to know.
Well, that's what, something we're finding out here.
Yeah. And people on Facebook were saying, what's going on over there? So it really wasn't published. I was seeing it. What's going on over there? Why are the bands there? What is that? Can somebody tell me what's going on there? So
And the whole use of the state right of way, again, you know, that wasn't, first of all, we have no right to allow somebody to put up signage on the right of way. And apparently when somebody from DOT came down, they said they shouldn't do that, what they've done. So again, you know, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Now we can move on if everybody.
Thank you for bringing that up, Rich. Appreciate it.
Very good points.
Yep. The next was the status of bottled water for PFOAs.
They're paying, I don't care.
Yeah, I got a call a couple of weeks ago from a young lady in Colorado. And she said, she asked if she could call me. So she called me and she said that her parents are about 80 years old and they live on Shirley Way and they're on bottled water. So I talked to these folks and they really don't have a problem with the water situation. The problem was that sometimes the Monadnock Water just dumped the water off at the end of the driveway, and it was hard for them to retrieve the water. But then Troy and I started talking about it, and we said, well, how many people in Litchfield are still, after all this time, are still using bottled water? And there's like, what'd we come up with, like 250 or something like that?
There was, and then the follow-up spreadsheet that was given to us from St. Gobain, they had it around 50. So the state had told me somewhere in 200, and then St. Gobain had provided a spreadsheet that showed right around 50. So
it just seems to me that after all this time, and people are having to use bottled water, you know, it's an inconvenience at the very least. The cost of it, you know, it doesn't cost them it, but it's the bother, you know, and you know, they're not bathing in it, you know, but I think that we as selectmen owe it to the people in town to have a handle on this. And, you know, if we can possibly use these ARPA funds or something to help these folks out, that we at least need to investigate that.
Mr. Chair, I have just a quick question.
Yeah.
Since the statistics are wrong,
We should go figure it out.
okay, and the 50 that we have, and they're already finding more wells supposedly.
I got my envelope the other day
Did you? Yep.
asking me to go get it tested.
Okay, so
Well, they'll come test it.
it's a statistical of how many homes are they delivering and what is happening in those homes regarding drinking water. Now, the state should be involved with that even more since they mandated it. Okay, and they should be following up. If the person's been connected to water, okay, then the bottled water system gone. Shirley Way does not have it. Okay,
They don't have
And-
water up there?
there's no town water up there.
Oh, wow.
Okay, because that's up back here.
Yeah.
Okay. So it all depends on what's happening with the well itself. If it's been tested, it's there, the bottled water has to go there for drinking. They can still use their well water, okay, for bathing or stuff like that. I think Rich has got a point, but we got to get the statistics straight before we can say anything.
Well, just so you know what's going on,
It'd be wonderful.
the the state entered into this, St. Gobain entered into a consent decree. And
Mhm.
part of that consent decree identified more testing in Litchfield.
Mhm.
So they've done that and they've continued to do more testing. So there are a number of residents that are on bottled water, and St. Gobain is working with the state right now on developing a plan on how they're going to correct, the water contamination. Right now they're looking at, from what I'm told, water line extensions, like you saw in the north end of town, and some water filtration systems, because the density isn't, is too, it just doesn't make sense to just expand water lines, a half mile to a house and then another quarter mile or something like that. So
Yeah, but hydro
it's probably,
is
you're going to
better.
see the outcome is going to be the extension of more water lines. Something like here, Shirley, I can see the water's here. I can see us putting water down those streets. Other sections of town might be a filtration system into the house. St. Gobain is the responsible party for all of Litchfield, I was told. Whereas in Londonderry, they're experiencing some problems over there, but only a small percentage of the town is designated in the consent decree. So St. Gobain is not the responsible party for other areas of the town of Londonderry that are having some problems. But
It's ridiculous.
the responsible party in Litchfield, which is St. Gobain, is on the hook 100% for either extending the water lines or paying for the water filtration system. So
The homeowners have a choice.
well, I
Because
don't,
why would you
I
want to
don't
end up with a
believe,
Penachuk bill?
I don't believe they will, I do not believe they'll have that choice if it's a street like, like Shirley. I think the state's preferred remediation is going to be put the water line down the street and hook them up.
What you won't?
I know what I prefer.
Absolutely.
The water line runs into my house because they ran it down through. So if the future something goes bad, I got backup. In the meantime, my well came back clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine did too, but my neighbors are contaminated.
It's because of the power line.
But anyhow, what I can do is, again, we don't have, like a lot of the budget work now is over with this evening for a little while, but we'll still have budget on the agenda. But at our next meeting, I can reach out to the state and have them come in, probably virtually, but have them give you an update.
Yeah, I'd love to know
That'd be
the
good.
data points. Is it
Yeah.
250
And
or
how
is it
far away are we from, a water extension or water filtration systems? Are these homeowners going through the winter again, having cases of water bottles delivered to the doorstep?
Cases of ice.
Yeah.
Well,
If you
refrigeration.
could do that, it'd be great, Troy.
Okay.
What do you do with the
How's
water?
it sound to
Yeah,
you,
I
Rich?
think the update is a good idea. But one thing that we should, at least in the back of our mind, think about with respect to these ARPA funds, and certainly water quality is one of the allowable uses for that. If I had a well that was contaminated, but it could be corrected with a private filtration system that wasn't too expensive, I would much rather have that happen, so I wouldn't have to pay for Pinnachuck, $60 a month or whatever, every month. I've done some research as far as filtration systems, and for about $2,000, you can get a decent filtration system that supposedly will take out PFOAs. So if just in the back of our minds, I'm not proposing this in any way, but I would say if we were able to use ARPA funds, and if the individual homeowners agreed to it, then we could provide them with a filtration system paid for with ARPA funds, and they would be, they wouldn't have to use bottled water, and they wouldn't have a water bill. Just an idea.
I love the thought process, but I'm not for letting St. Gobain off the hook.
Yeah,
They should be
definitely.
paying for it. They should absolutely be paying for it.
Well, that we could build them.
Well, that's what they're looking into, because of the running lines. It doesn't serve a purpose in a low density area. So if the testing come back, they did mention they're going to talk about filtration costs as well.
It's bound to be less than water lines.
Oh, God, it's less than
Just
water
the
line,
maintenance, they probably
and
don't.
also the Pinnachuck bill.
The problem with running water lines is every 15 feet, they want another fire hydrant.
Right.
Yeah, they cut back on their hose this year. Oh, boy.
Okay, the next item you had was the Purple Heart update.
Yes, and I don't really have much to update here, but I'm struggling. I'm trying to identify people who have earned the Purple Heart in Litchfield who would care to be recognized. And so far, I only have one person who supposedly earned a Purple Heart. In his case, he earned two. But and I haven't talked with, there was a veterans meeting on Saturday, which I wasn't able to go to because of COVID, but I haven't touched base with them. But there are probably 250 to 300 veterans in town. And I would think that there's quite a, maybe at least 10 or 12 Purple Heart recipients in that group. But I don't know that to be true. And it's very difficult to verify that sort of thing because of HIPAA.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody has any ideas or anything.
How about your legions and, those groups?
See, I haven't even tried that. I mean,
I'm thinking about
VFW and
VFWs.
American Legion and so forth.
Yeah.
They might not.
So Rich, Bobby Jacques has a call into me. I'm gonna call him in the morning, so maybe I can ask him and see if he has any
Just
ideas.
asking.
It's worth it.
Okay.
It's
Because
HIPAA.
I couldn't make the meeting either on Saturday morning because
They
we
have
had
nothing
field
to do with
dedication for Jeff Lane.
Purple Heart?
Wounded.
No, they
So
don't.
I'll give him a call and then I'll
Be
give you an
Veterans
update after I
Administration,
speak with him
maybe.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Veterans Administration too. You know
The
them.
VA might be a good source to look into also.
The VA is no good because they won't give you any information because of HIPAA.
Damn, he was right. Well, thanks for shooting us down on that idea.
Yeah. And you can't really use the town has, veterans credits and for disabled veterans and so forth. But just because a veteran's disabled, it doesn't mean he's earned a Purple Heart.
Correct.
So,
I don't even think they offer that.
It's not even.
It's not on the application, yeah.
All right.
and quite frankly, a lot of veterans don't want to mention it.
No, they don't, especially the Vietnam ones.
It's the type of person.
Yep.
It is.
And what they went through, they don't want to bring it back up again.
Okay, next we have is the town administrator report. Mr.
Short and
Brown.
sweet.
Okay, I'll make it quick. One item I'll add that is not here, but I know you all noticed walking into the building recently that our American flagpole was recently installed. So that was good.
Good to have.
Long wait, but it looks really good. It's, you know, it matches the other two that the Eagle Scout did for his project. So you got 3 white poles there with all with a nice gold ball on top. I think it just really looks sharp. So glad that we were able to get that in place before Saturday's 9/11 event. Something else that you may have heard about, transfer station. We've had some neighbors talking with Dave down there about the burning of brush and how the smoke and pretty much the smoke really is becoming a nuisance for them. A lot of this is, we believe, is because we did remove the trees. Now the smoke will carry throughout the neighborhood a little quicker than it had before. It got to the point where this neighbor, made some phone calls at the state level. We've had some inspections down at our facility from the fire marshal to air quality control. The great thing was Dave's doing a fine job down there, and was nothing that he was doing wrong. But through the whole process, we really started to take a look at the burning process. And what we learned was it's a lot of work on Dave's staff to actually burn, watch over it, move the piles around. The fire department's coming down. It's restrictive to the days you can do it, when you can't do it. He reached out to some of the other communities and has found that a lot of towns have gotten away from burning, and they've moved towards chipping the brush. And there's companies that will come in and grind up the brush pile. So he's informed the people that were concerned that we're going to do this as a trial. We want to see how long it, what it costs to chip, and how many times a year we'll have to do it. But we're thinking 6 times a year. We're thinking twice a year, fall and spring. And the costs, he thinks he can absorb the cost in his revolving fund. So
yeah,
right now we're going to start collecting it, pushing it up into a pile, and we're just going to do a trial period. But if it doesn't work out, we'll have to.
We have a
go
big
back
chipper,
to it.
don't we?
What's that?
We have a chipper, don't we?
Yeah, the type of chipping, when you have a pile of brush like this, it's more of a grapple. It's a, you're talking about twisted, mangled brush, and you're pushing it up with a
Can't see it loaded.
Yeah.
Got a backhoe, get a grapple. No, never mind.
It won't.
It won't.
You won't feed through that little.
I know.
Rum and Diet Coke.
So that's it. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Selectmen reports, Ms. Queenan.
The planning board meets Tuesday, September 21st at 7 PM here at the town hall. We're going to continue to work on our land use laws as well as normal town business. As far as NRPC, the meeting is usually held on the 15th, around the 15th of the month. This meeting on September 15th has been changed to September 22nd in deference to Yom Kippur. Usually we meet in Nashua, sorry. But they're going to change the meeting time to be at it's going to be on the September 22nd. It's going to be in the 3rd floor of the auditorium at Nashua City Hall, because everyone has to be on site and has to wear masks, and we need a lot of room for that. So NRPC commissioner meeting is moved to September 22nd, 3rd floor auditorium at Nashua City Hall. You have to wear a mask. It's at 7:00 PM. That's all.
Okay, thank you. My updates, emergency management team. Fortunately, we have not been meeting since there's nothing bad going thus far. I mean, to the point we were, numbers are rising a little bit, but at least there's not the weekly call that's happening at the New Hampshire government level that's causing us to have a team meeting. Recreation Commission, we meet tomorrow evening. We did have the dedication of the Justin Bissett Memorial Baseball Complex on Saturday. It was very emotional, wonderful event. Family was very thankful to the town for naming it after their son who had passed away at a very early age. From a school facilities improvement committee, the last two meetings have been canceled due to lack of attendance and illness. Capital Improvement Committee, I don't think we're going to meet until October because we don't have a Monday night available in this room until what, the first week of
To
October?
the first, yeah.
Yep, so we'll be going to that. That's what I have. Mr. Larry.
Budget committee met last week. Nothing much to report there. We'll start getting into the month with the town. Every
Time's
week
ahead.
from there on in.
Mr. Lynch.
Conservation event, talking about many things quietly. They're looking at land acquisitions and stuff like that. They're looking at some other stuff at the, I'm going to say the mustard field. Looking to work out something on that as well. They've been up there doing some mowing. It's nice to see somebody else doing it. They're all up there now. That's about it.
Good. Thank you. Mr. LaSalle's.
Yes, the Heritage Commission has not met. We're supposed to meet tomorrow night. The meeting is planned to be in person, but with my situation, unless I can get out of this COVID quarantine deal, I'm not going to be able to attend in person. I'll attend remotely. But the legislature hasn't met for a while. The next thing that's going to happen will be veto bills will be taken up sometime in the next 6 weeks or so. The PFOA Commission met last Friday. And I don't know, Steve, if you have any update on that. Again, I was not able to attend that.
No, I don't have an update.
So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I think you had one more thing.
Yep. Yes. We have a local veteran in town, Stephen Moore Miller, who's in the Army, who's deployed overseas. His son Hayden goes to school in town here. He's been gone since April 2021 and hopefully going to be back next year if everything goes well. But they've started a collection at the school. Mary Sapiric is doing it. She's one of the admin assistants there. And they're looking for, handmade cards, snacks, things like that. No real perishable things like chocolate or whatever. Slim Jims, nuts like that, things that's okay. The personal hygiene items such as soaps, hand towels, shampoos, razors, things like that. And there's a couple of women in the outfit. So if anybody could do anything, it would be really nice. I dropped off a bunch last week at the school at GMS, and she's got 2 collection areas there. So if anybody could feel a little generous, that would be nice for our troops overseas and especially for the ones from town.
Could we post that on the town website? Cross-post to the social media? Just the list
The
and the drop-off spots?
and is that the Dropbox? That's not going to go here then now.
No.
It's
Well,
at the school.
Terry says there is one here, but we could put one here in
I
addition.
remember
I
you
guess.
emailing,
There is one? Yeah.
So, but if we could pull that up and help out and see what we can reach out to the community and see what people would donate for our military personnel.
And I read that without coughing because I put water down the wrong pipe.
Great.
Sorry.
So we have no other business this evening, so except to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch.
It's the fastest he's moved since I've known him. So moved. So seconded.
We have a second by Mr. Larry. All those in favor, Mr. Larry.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
I gotta get up
Full
first.
disclosure, my wife just delivered me a cocktail. You vote to adjourn.
I'll be on the porch in a little bit.
Mr. Lynch. Mr. Lynch?
No, he wants to stay.
Yes.
Let him stay.
Ms. Queen?
Stay, Junior.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. We are now adjourned. Thank you for tuning in and hope everybody has a wonderful week.